Hi, this is Natalie Lander, voice of Kinsey, Tara Branford, Stargirl, and many others. You are listening to a W2Mnet podcast. You can visit W2Mnet.com for other podcasts about entertainment, video games, sports, and wrestling. You are listening to Video Games to the Max.
Hello and welcome to a special edition of Video Games to the Max. It's the first of two where we just basically honor what was 2020 in video games. Not the year, because it was just pretty shitty for the most part. But as far as video games go, when you think about everything that was 2020, by and large, video games really benefited from everything that happened in 2020, other than the ones that got delayed, obviously. But man, there's been very few times where video games have sold as much as they have right in this year, because everybody has been at home, and video games have been given to a larger audience more this year than they probably have been in a while, because
It's suddenly become much more culturally acceptable.
Yes, there are so many people that I wonder if once we can go back to a semblance of normality, we'll have that Switch that they bought, and it's just going to gather dust, or are they going to keep buying games for it afterwards? That will be interesting. I feel like the PS5 and Series X would still have the same hoopla regardless, because they're new systems and everything, but a lot of the Switch's boon this year, I think we really do have to attribute it to, this year that was. So thankfully I am not here by myself to talk about the year that was 2020. And really what we're doing is talking about our 10 favorite games between the four of us that are here. Myself, Sean Garmer, the host. Always with me is Mr. Marc Morrison.
Howdy.
And of course the regulars, Jens Dietrich.
Ahoy, ahoy.
Editor extraordinaire, and of course, Mr. Randy Isbelle.
Rest in peace, Brody Lee.
Yes. Talk about 2020 taking another one away from us.
Right.
This one was just absolutely unexpected. The dude was, had no idea he had some kind of pulmonary condition either. It's just something that we apparently found out about when his wife was giving, a last speech about him to everybody. But just awful, because that guy he had so much more to give to the industry, and lost one of the good ones.
For those that don't know, professional wrestler.
Yeah, he's a professional wrestler with AEW. Used to be Luke Harper in WWE. So if you don't watch the other product, but
usually when you guys mention a celebrity that I do not know, that's what it is.
That's fair, yes. Because most other celebrities, most other people are gonna know. But yeah. This sucks. Sucks to... Man, like, right when we're like, everybody's getting hope for next year. Man. But alright. I hate to have to, move on do a hard, move from there, but yeah. So, Daniel is not in the talking with us, but he has provided his list, so I will be referencing it. Basically, it's the five of us that really do a lot for the site. There are other people on the staff, but we're the ones that do the writing and such, and we'll also do print versions of these top 10s so that you can read on the website. You'll get more concise, maybe more concise or more verbiage for these games, depending on your liking. So yeah, there'll be that. And then of course our top 25, we're going to do that Wednesday night, Thursday morning. So technically we'll still be in 2020. And then we'll also have the big written version for that, and everybody will have, blurbs there. And then we'll look ahead we already did a look ahead on the last big episode of Video Games to the Max we had a guest from the Outer Haven, Keith Mitchell. He talked a lot with us about various topics. So our main topic was most anticipated games of 2021. That's just our 10 that we picked. There's probably so many other ones that we had to leave off there. So definitely, let's take this one look back, guys. Before we do so, anybody have any like hard 11s? Like you had a really tough time trying to. Anybody have one of those like ones that you like really pained you to have to leave off?
I was really struggling between Yes, Your Grace and Carry On, which one was going to make the cut. Just because I enjoyed Carry On so much, just the feel of it, the art style, everything about the design of that facility and the way you traverse it. It's a really fantastic game. But I just resonated so much with the story in Yes, Your Grace. And I also played through Yes, Your Grace like 3 times in a row in like a one-night bender.
Wow.
Of just like, sucking all the trophies out of it and trying to do every ending and every variant of everything that can happen in it and stuff. So I know that like I was way more obsessed with it at the time, but like looking at them, it's hard for me to decide which one actually deserves. Because Carry On is just amazing. It just feels so good. Whereas Yes, Your Grace is all about, the story and the way your decisions affect it. That was my conflict there of what I value more, I guess, in the game. I know you guys have put Carry On your list, so at least it's represented somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. I'll bring it up in just a little bit, but anybody else have any hard 11s or ones that like you gave you a really tough time?
Yeah,
I wanted to put it on. Yeah.
I had 2. I won't talk much about Streets of Rage 4 because I know it's on another list, but absolute just nostalgia trip done correct. Unlike Battletoads, which was nostalgia trip done terribly wrong. But that one just missed my list. And Resident Evil 3, I have just off my list too.
That is surprising.
I enjoyed it. I just felt like they could have done more with it. It was a little disappointing that they cut full scenes and sections from the original game when that game was short anyways, which just made the whole experience short. And it honestly felt like it was an expansion pack to Resident Evil 2. And from all news that I've ever heard about this, that's what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to come out in one big giant pack with 2 and 3 in one game, which would have been Game of the Year in whatever game it came out for me if they had done that. So I was a little disappointed with it just for that aspect, but the gameplay was really fun and I had a good time. So that one was tough to keep off my list, but 2020 was just ridiculous for me. I played too many games and a lot of them were really good. Super Meat Boy Forever was one I thought might sneak on there right at the end, but I'm probably 2/3 of the way through the main part of the game. I'm just kind of disappointed with the decisions they made for it. For a super tight procedurally for a very tight platformer like Super Meat Boy was, to have it procedurally generate levels is just not the way that should have went. So those are my really close calls.
Marc, do you have any close calls?
I'd probably say Tony Hawk 1 and 2. Like, they actually made a good Tony Hawk game, and they haven't made one of those in like 10 years. The problem kind of is like everything around, like, playing it is great, but like all the stupid like currency systems and all that stuff is just really grind. Pardon the pun. But it plays great. Like, it really is like one of those old games. It's like really impressive they were able to finally pull it off, because they've been chasing that forever.
Yeah. I had a bunch, but probably the one that's really high on one list, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, just barely. It was a hard, like, didn't quite make it for me because I played it a bunch when it first came out, and then I didn't finish it, and I didn't go back and play it either because we've had so much stuff come out. And I don't know, I really enjoyed that game, but I just had like other things that kind of either stuck with me a lot more, or like, man, just really made an impression. I mean, that game is just really, really good. And I hate it because I talked about how I got snubbed at the Game Awards and everything as well. But man, again, this is why this is a top 10 and not, well, we're making a top 25, right? Because it's to try to honor more of those games that came out. But yeah, Ori is a game that I super, super, enjoy, but like you can only make 10. Another one for me was, Star Renegades. I just love the strategy in that game, and then also it's sort of like a old, like throwback to, strategy games that you were like, where you're also like walking around and stuff, and then there's enemies on a map that you have to run into, and then it gets into like a turn-based strategy battle, which is cool too. And then there's strategy elements on top of that with the turn-based like battles. So, and I just love the aesthetic of that entire world. It's really good. Small little game. It's on Game Pass. You can go play it. Yeah, I mean, I could probably list another 10 of games that I dropped off that I really, really enjoyed or just didn't quite get to spend a lot of time with that I wish I got to play more. But I'm just going to highlight those. But I really feel like Ori could have easily replaced quite a few of these games on here, and I'd be just thinking about just as much that game. So, yeah, let's start. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go, everybody talks about their 10, their 9, their 8, whatever. If there is a game that somebody has a lot higher, we're probably going to just wait to have the big conversation when we get to that point with that game. But we'll get to that when we come to it. So if, like, for instance, somebody's number 10, say Randy's number 10 is somebody else's much higher, but he's not here. So, but we'll still, like, wait till we talk about number ones to really have the conversation based around that game, especially because two people have their own podcast related about that game a lot.
You mean Daniel's number 10?
Oh, no. Wait, did I do it opposite?
Yeah, Randy is here.
Well, no, I meant it's somebody else's who's not here's much higher game.
Yeah. Oh.
That is Randy's number 10.
Daniel and I flipped our one.
Yeah, basically. Which is funny. So let's go ahead and start. Because he's not here, he'll always go first. Daniel's number 10, probably to the surprise of a lot of people listening right now, The Last of Us 2 is his number 10.
So what's surprising about it being his number 10?
Probably going to be a lot of people's, like, how many Game of the Year's awards has it won already? Like 70-something?
Okay.
I mean...
Is Daniel like a huge Last of Us fan? So this is like a big fault?
No, I don't know. I mean, like, that's the thing. He's I understand why. His other games that are up there for him, those are games that he likes more. But yeah, I mean, it's a game that's higher for me. It's a game that I know is higher for Randy. So, but we'll talk about that, game later, but it certainly is surprising to see it there at, number 10. Jens, you talked about your number 10 a little bit.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, Your Grace.
Yes, Your Grace. It's a game where you're king of a little monarchy, and you've got to keep your kingdom alive, and you've got to keep your family alive. And it's branching story, adventure game elements, strategy elements. Pretty cool stuff. Really enjoyed it.
You have to make decisions, right?
You have to make decisions about your resources, and you have to make decisions about your immediate family, basically. And your decisions have pretty tragic consequences sometimes. Let's put it that way. It's an interesting story. I recommend it to all. It's now on Game Pass. I paid full price for it. Don't regret it one bit because it was so good.
It's also like 8-bit or.
Yeah, it's like it's in pixel art. It kind of looks like a 90s adventure game with your little pixel characters that you click around the world. But it really is more of a strategy game than an adventure game. Like, don't expect hugely complex puzzles or anything.
Fair enough. It's a game that I liked a little bit. I didn't get to spend a whole lot of time with it, but Jens, every time he's talked about it on the podcast, he's really been exuberant about it. So cool that it got to make his list.
I mean, I just like the characters in the story a lot. So, I don't know. This is just a favorites list, right? I'm not claiming that this is in any way, shape, or form like one of the 10 best games of the year. Like, I wouldn't advocate for it on the official, video games of the max list or anything.
Right. Some of these obviously will show up in that 25 and some of these that are on the lower parts that only one of us picked, we're going to probably battle hard. But that's what's cool about these. We get to see how many of our lists get to actually like make it in full in that thing when we have to start considering other things. Mark, what is your number 10?
I picked Hard Space Shipbreaker, a game that's not technically even out yet, but it's just in early access. It's really fun. You basically cut apart spaceships and like drop off the materials into hoppers. But it feels great. It's a lot of fun to cut apart certain ships. It's always tense, but relaxing as well. And I really dig it. I'd wish you had mod support.
Is this going to come to consoles at some point?
Probably. I mean, it could easily.
I really want to play this, actually.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. You have different ranks. Like, you rank up and you get new abilities, like new upgrades. And like, the later ranks are just ridiculous because, you have to earn 100 million credits. And it's like, that's a lot. Like, and granted, like, you get access to higher, like, more expensive ships to break apart, but that's still a lot of money. So if it comes to consoles, I hope they readjust it a little for like, the official release. But yeah, it's great. Like, you feel like you're floating and it's perfect. I think I like games that have a relaxing atmosphere, but can also be tense.
Makes sense to me.
That's always rewarding in its own way.
Yeah.
I just like, just the idea of slicing through giant things is very appealing.
Oh yeah, and you break apart these ships, or you have to extract the reactor, but it can also like melt down or go critical and then blow apart half the ship, and then you're just screwed.
Is it anything like slicing up giant mechs in Metal Gear Solid Revengeance?
All these mechs have like basically welding points, so you break apart the point, and then the piece just goes like flying off, and that's kind of the cool part.
Okay.
I think there's like one upgrade I haven't gotten yet, but that's like the highest upgrade is like literally like your laser beam can cut apart like half the ship in half. That's what I really want to like get with. But yeah, if it comes to consoles, you'll definitely like it, I think.
Sounds awesome.
Awesome for sure. And that's what's cool is like, I think a lot of people may not even know what Hard Space Shipbreaker is, but now maybe you're like Jens and you heard Mark talk about it, so you're intrigued by what it is. Is it like on the Steam sale that's going on right now, or?
Yeah, I think it's like $17, maybe 18. I mean, I think the regular price is like 25. It's going up in price now that it's getting closer and closer to actual release. But yeah, it's really beautiful to look at too, I think.
Interesting. Randy's number 10 we'll talk about later, but
yeah, it's another game that not a lot of people have heard of. It's that Ghost of Tsushima game. Have you guys heard of that one?
Oh, an indie hit, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll talk about it more, but it's fine.
It wasn't some big studio that made it or anything. And also you can like listen to Randy and Jens talk about it on Chapter Select.
Yep.
I mean, the funny thing about that game is it's on two other people's lists. One of them isn't here, and the other one it's on mine at like number 7. It's not that high up either.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. And then
it was a decent enough game.
Like Jens, it didn't make his at all. He talked about it for quite a bit. So
yeah, it just didn't leave much of an impression with me. Gotta admit. I mean,
you were excited for that game.
It was a perfectly fine 40 hours while I was playing it. It was a nice game to like put a podcast on and just do the miscellaneous stuff.
You didn't like the music?
And the music's actually really good. It's a good score, for sure.
Well, I can get into it a little later on, but yeah.
True.
But there's only, there's only so much. You spent 40 hours of that music,
That's true.
Not everyone focuses only on the music.
But there are some games where the music is so good it doesn't matter. I'll get into that.
Yeah, they're called rhythm
later.
games.
So number 10 for me is Carrion, which I think only one other person has it on their list, so we'll talk about it when we get there, but it is such a little surprising game in that it turns a lot of what you do in a Metroidvania game on its head, because you're the villain instead of the hero, right? And it also takes things from some other games. Well, we can talk about that in a little bit there when we get to the other person that has it on their list. So Daniel at number 9 has Spider-Man Miles Morales, which Randy and I have it a little bit higher in ours. So we'll get to that when we get there. Randy, I'll go to you first for your number 9.
Yeah, I'm not surprised I'm the only one in this group that has this game on the list, just because, again, I'm a kid of the late 80s, early 90s, so games like Crash Bandicoot were big in my teenage years, so seeing Crash 4 come out and being absolutely so good was so fantastic to see. Toys for Bob did a fantastic job with this game. There's over like 30-some levels in it. A lot of them are actually longer than you expect them to be. I like the new elements and new powers that you're able to collect in this, which basically, I mean, you see in a lot of other platformers and stuff. There's nothing like brand new that Crash 4 is bringing to the table, but you can slow down time and change with gravity and stuff. We see it in Mario games and stuff. So that's why I had it down a little bit. And that and a certain PS5 platformer came out and made me realize that this was not one of the better platformer games of the year. So I had to bump it down a little bit. Mm-hmm. I also had to bump it down because I am never, ever, ever, ever going to get the platinum in this game. Because holy hell, what they ask you to do for that platinum is something I might have been able to do back, when like the original Crashes were coming out, when I still had that kind of skill. It's not happening. I'm not that good anymore. I'm good enough to beat the game. I'm not anywhere near good enough to platinum that sucker.
Well, hey, you have kids, put them to work.
Sadly, my one kid that can play video games is too hooked on Fortnite to care about platformers. So I've got him on the Breath of the Wild, so he's playing something else. And that's literally good. Today was the first time I let my 3-year-old try to play Mario, and she can kill a couple Goombas, but she can't jump the gap yet. So we're getting there. But she's not ready for trying to help me platinum Crash 4 yet.
So I know what PS5 platformer you're talking about, but another PS5 platformer that's also a launch game for the PS5 that both of us own, both did not make our list. It almost made mine, but again, there was too many games. So why not Sackboy: A Big Adventure instead?
So for one issue is because they didn't have the online going when it launched, and now that it's up there, you and I just haven't synced up yet to try multiplayer. Maybe that will make it feel more fun, but especially compared to Crash or the other PS5 launch title that came out, Sackboy just feels too slow.
I agree.
The levels are fun, the music is great, they have some nice surprises in it, but Sackboy just moves so slowly in that game. It actually.
To be fair, he's slow in the other games too.
Yeah, I was gonna say they all kind of feel like that.
But it's actually very jolting when you come off of an Astro or a Crash or an Ori, and then you get to Sackboy and you go, oh man, they gotta get some.
I feel like Sackboy wants you to, and to be fair, like it is a very pretty looking game. There's a lot going on in each one of their levels, and I think that's what it wants you to do. It wants you to take in all that stuff that's going on. It wants you to explore everything because it's got all those hidden things. They are the little hidden, little glass, they look like little glass balls that you're finding. Like, I realize that, like, it wants you to go slow so you don't miss something, I feel like. But, yeah, it is super jarring when you're getting off one of these other platformers that are really about, let's go fast. Let's, like, really try to explore, but you're gonna feel the swiftness of the PS5, whereas Sackboy is kind of like, alright, we're gonna jog along here.
And I do truly feel that it's a lot like the other Little Big Planet games, where it is built to play in multiplayer. Yeah, so you can mess around and work together on different things. And there are parts of the game that are just completely locked out to me right now.
That's true too.
So it'll be interesting if Sean and I can ever get together and try it multiplayer, or if I finally get enough money to buy another expensive controller and get Haley to play with it or with me or something. But single player, it just didn't hit.
Don't you miss when they actually made the controllers like half the price of the games and not like the same price as?
I mean, the controllers, yeah. Some of the controllers, or the controllers are more expensive than some of the games.
Yeah, that's true too. So, yeah, I mean, going on to, do we have a number 9 that's left before we get to, mine. Okay. So,
mine Yenza's.
Right, yours, and I was leaving last because we have talked about that game a lot. So, Spiritfarer is my number 9. I talked about this game quite a bit on the podcast. If you heard the other episodes before this one, if this is your first one, then cool. Thank you for listening anyway. You can always start somewhere. But Spiritfarer is a cool little indie game that I found because of Game Pass. And one of the benefits of Game Pass is getting to find games like this and Carrion and, Jens's Yes Your Grace is on there as well. And another game that I'll talk about in a little bit. But, like, Spiritfarer it's pretty much like, okay, Harvest Moon or any of those type games, except for this has a cool little spin on it in that you're sort of like the person giving these animal spirits like their last rites, like their last wishes. You're doing what they ask you to do, certain things, and you're trying to do your best to do that for them, like whether it's a certain kind of food, so that means you might have to grow certain plants, or you have to build certain things that they like, or build them a house, build them a room, and it's all on this ship, and it all looks very pretty, and it's like in this cool cartoony style, and I really like the like character has this nice like charm to it as well. It's very much a slow, like, you do it at your own pace kind of thing. But I sort of enjoyed that. It was a very relaxing experience. And I'm not one for these type of games, but like something about Spiritfarer just works for me.
Yeah, I played it a little bit and talked about it on Chapter Select. It's one of those games that I only played for a few hours, but it was one of those games where when I was playing it was perfect to play right before bed. Just kind of a nice, relaxing, kind of explore their world a little bit. It was telling a nice story. I just wasn't able to really get hooked and then forget what came out, and I put it down and forgot all about it. But it's nice that you put it on your list.
Jens, I know you said you fell off it.
Yeah, I made it up until the point where it was asking you to do resource farming by standing on a roof and jumping up and down to collect stars for minutes at a time. I was just like, which I realized is very early on.
Yes.
Like I think I built like 2 things, and then it was now farm these stars, and I was just hopping, on the roof, collecting these stars, and like, okay, I'm just going to collect these stars until the bar fills. There's not really a challenge. If this is what the rest of the game is, I don't know, maybe this sort of thing. I think I'm just not the right person for this genre.
That's how it works in real life. I mean, come on.
Yeah, but in real life, you get money out of doing that sort of menial stuff.
No, I like the story too. It just kind of, again, just similar to its gameplay, doles it out when you get to it after you go through all of the other menial things.
Yeah, I just didn't get far enough, I guess, to really appreciate. I believe you that the story is really good, and I wish that I enjoyed the gameplay so that I could see it.
Yeah, I think it's sort of kind of the same thing that same issue Marc has with a game that we both like a lot more. In how it tells its story. So interesting how we all have our things with how things tell their story. So number 9 is shared by both Jens and Marc, and it's a game that you can also listen to Jens and Randy talk about a lot on Chapter Select. And we talked about it a ton on this Here Video Game podcast. Oh my god, I felt like I was sitting there saying, okay, we're not going to talk about it last week. And all we did was talk about that game and everything surrounding it. Cyberpunk 2077 is on their list. I can hear the boos or the cheers right now. Go ahead, guys.
It's just a pretty good story, that raises some very interesting questions. It's a decent shooter. I think it has some very fun guns. I really like the auto pistols, the smart pistols. There's a smart shotgun that you get late in the game that's pretty amazing. There's some pretty fun weapons in this. Like, the loot is actually really good. I think the hacking's pretty good. I really like the scrubbing through memories aspect of it, which reminds me of Tacoma or Remember Me.
Yeah.
So, it's a pretty... If you like the, the Bethesda or like Ion Storm style, our computer RPG, first-person computer RPG... I think this is a pretty good one when it's working right. So
yeah,
I think this game would be a lot higher on my list actually if it wasn't for the fact that it was a broken mess right now. So I don't know. Maybe we'll look back.
Be careful with that. 'Cause it's not a broken mess for Sun Devil, I guess.
I mean,
we don't have good PCs,
It largely works great on the Series X. Apart from some bugs, apart from every now and then having to quit out of it. to refresh it. It works pretty well on the Series X, but, considering the state in general, as far as, I don't know. I want the bugs patched too. There are so many weird scripting things. They're really just nuisances, It's nothing that breaks the game. But there are still a lot of nuisances with this, and a lot of things that they need to fix. So it just feels unfinished. And I love the world. I love existing in Night City. Night City is a great place. I like Johnny Silverhand. I've read a lot of reactions on the web recently where people talk about the bugs aren't the real problem. It's the fact that the characters are terrible and you don't care about them. And I did not have that reaction.
No, if anything, the fact it crashes every hour for me is why it's not higher on my list.
Yeah, so it sounds like Marc's, the PS5 version or the PS4 version on PS5 seems to be more crashy than what Randy and I are experiencing. So, again, I just can't put it higher. So
yours went back to crashing now again?
Marc?
Oh, yeah. It's about every hour. It depends on how much I fast travel. Fast traveling seems to really do it. Like, the second I do it, if I look up, then the game just crashes hard, to the desktop or to the PS5 menu. And I was like, oops, great.
Yeah.
Damn.
But, for me personally, it was, as far as all the bugs and stuff, it was bearable for me. I was able to play through the story and have a really good time with it. So I wanted to put it on this list just because it honestly was one of my favorite games this year. I'm not just trying to be contrarian or anything.
Are you going to go back and play the side content?
Yes. So my goal is once this game is actually finished and the next gen versions are out and properly patched up, that is when I'm going to go in and do all the completionist content, because I know, some of the cyber psychos, which is one of the side quest types, are definitely bugged, where you cannot finish them. There's one where after you kill the cyber psycho, Regina, who's your fixer for those missions, her little intercom will pop up on the left-hand side of the screen, and she'll just sit there not saying anything, and you can't at that point finish the quest, nor accept any new quests, nor talk to anybody.
Cool.
So, that's I guess I gotta reload because I can't finish this quest now. So I'm just gonna do all that stuff, all the sites, the super cleared all the districts. I'm gonna do all that stuff next year. But, you can get through the main game and most of the important side quests just fine. So I feel like I experienced it.
Yeah, I'm still playing it. Well, I still have to review it, but I still like it, but it would get a higher score if it wasn't screwed up.
Fair enough. And yeah, there's a lot to be left to be continued with Cyberpunk, including Randy and Jens's conversation about it. But which poor Randy is I don't want to be talking about this game anymore.
No, I'm so over this game.
But thankfully, at least for this show, we'll probably talk about it again when we hit Wednesday. But at least for this show, we're done talking about it. So I think that's it for number 9 for everybody. So let's get to number 8, which is Star Wars Squadrons for Daniel. And as much as he talked about enjoying this game, I thought he would have it higher, but I guess it says a lot about the games he has higher than this. We do have... It was one of those where I just didn't play it enough. I got it on the holiday sale and I played a couple of hours, and there's just so many things I'm trying to play more of before we get to this list, and of course Wednesday as well, to be able to talk about it if it's going to come up. So it just didn't make my list, but it's a little bit higher on somebody else's, so I'll wait a little bit on that. Plus Daniel's not here to really talk about it, so. But number 8, we'll go with, mine is 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim, which a certain person has much, much higher, so I'll talk about that when we get there. But let's go with yours, Jens, because yours is pretty unique in that no one else has it. Sakura Wars, the reboot.
Yes. I guess I'm one of the weird outliers who like this reboot. I'm not super married to the strategy aspects of Sakura Wars. Those old games are good, but I was perfectly fine with playing a third-person action game where you beat stuff up with robots, and it's pretty cool. It's got a nice combo system. It feels decent. It's very contained arena-ish, and I can see how it might get tiresome by the end of it. But, as far as the action component, I think it's pretty good. But what I really liked is just the story around it and the, dating game relationship building aspects of it and the musical theater aspects of it, which is, of course, the stuff that's always been unique and interesting about Sakura Wars. And all that stuff is here in spades. So, even if you're disappointed that they changed a core gameplay thing about Sakura Wars, I think there's still a ton to like here.
Well, that's good. I mean, it's a game that, like, when you talked about it on the podcast for that, I think right after you had finished it, it's always had me, like, intrigued. Okay, Jens liked it a lot. I kind of like some of the things in it, but I was like, man, there's other games that I want to spend that $40 on a little bit more. So I was like,
and games like this don't go on sale enough, really.
Yeah.
Like even Atelier Ryza, you keep seeing it go on sale for like $15 off or $10 off, and it's just not for most people. It's like they never go half off,
Well, to be fair, like Sega does do a good job of putting their stuff on sale.
Yeah, I think the more, maybe not so much with the anime games. Maybe it's more with stuff like Yakuza. Really,
they will.
Like Yakuza is somehow like super like broad audience now. Which is
well,
such
to
a
be
bizarre
fair,
change.
like almost all of the games except for Sony, which good on Sony for I guess trying to keep up the value of their games since they just came out. But like Ubisoft, to be fair, they released 3 freaking open world games in the matter of like a month and a half.
Yeah, that's
which
crazy,
is ridiculous. But they put all of those games on sale. They have Sega has put Yakuza on sale. I mean, so like and Yakuza just came out as well. They didn't have to do that. So,
I'm just saying specifically, It seems like Sakura Wars doesn't.
Yeah, they did. It's just weird that only the deluxe edition, not the regular edition. So like,
right, because the deluxe edition, even on sale, is still like $65.
Well, no, it actually goes down to 40, but it's like the regular edition is like 50. So it's really okay.
All right.
But no, still, like, it's a good game.
When it gets cheap enough.
When it gets cheap enough, I will definitely check it out. It's because, like, I get to the point with this year where I know if I buy a bunch of these games that were really good at some point this year, they're just going to sit there and I'm not going to play them.
Oh, no, don't feel obligated. You never need to feel obligated to play anything other than 30 Sentinels.
Which I have tried. That was the last thing I played before we started talking here. So, I'm still not extremely far on it. That's why I didn't make my list as high as, someone else's. But, yeah, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it, definitely. Marc also has a game that 2 of us did not like very much, but Marc enjoyed a lot in SnowRunner.
Yeah, I found it a relaxing experience that is also can be tense. Like, just driving around the environment is fun or fine, but like if you have to like go up a mountain with like a trailer, it's like that's very harrowing because that thing could tip over, or your tow line could snap, and then things could go wrong, and then you have to start it up all over again. I think it looks really pretty. It's desolate, but I still like the environments, and yeah, I just dug it. I don't like the mission design that much because it has like really weird, like it'll say like, oh, you have to bring wood over, but then you'll bring wood over. It's like, no, it has to be this wood from this one point. And it's like, well, you should have told me that 20 minutes ago before you started hauling this load out here in the first place. But other than that, I thought it was really good. It's methodical and it takes patience, which is, I think, why Jens didn't like it. But it was a very enjoyable game to me.
Well, I just have enough frustration in my life, like just trying to like hang a picture correctly or screw it.
So...
Well, yeah, I don't. But I mean, it just feels like these kind of like it gets like trying to look for a screw under a dark bed or something, or reaching for a cable behind your TV, like those kind of things, the kind of little annoying, irritating things in life that you have to deal with. That's what that game feels like in its entirety.
Except the things you're doing in the game aren't little or annoying because you're having to carefully get through a bog, or going as slow as possible to avoid catastrophe.
But I can see how that's also frustrating, right? You also want to like just get it over with sometimes, and you.
Man, we were stuck in the mud for hours playing that game.
Yeah, that was enjoyable.
No, it was not.
You had to figure out how to get the hell out of there. I mean, that's the whole point of the game. The previous games were called Mud Runner and Spin Tires. Like,
I know. I should have never let you talk me into it. I mean, that's just a mistake I made. I need to learn my lessons.
Assassin's
Creed Valhalla. Yeah.
I'm glad that, Mark was the one reviewing it. I'm glad he enjoyed it, though. That's the important part, because it sucks when you have to review a game that you're excited about and then you wind up not enjoying.
Oh, yeah. I would throw like a 3 out of 10 on that. You get a very hateful review from me.
Look for my review of 13 Sentinels later on.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. I can't wait for that. That's going to be interesting. Okay, so... to be fair, we did not get a code for that. That was, Jens bought the game from Mark and wanted him to review it. So, just, so nobody sends, like, Atlas some letter or something. No hate, for that. It's not that kind of thing. So, I think that's it for everybody's, Randy did Hades for number 8, which it's higher on some other lists. So, Randy, any thoughts you wanna...
Just that I haven't played it enough. I'm like you and 13 Sentinels with Hades. I've put a few hours into it. I love what I've played. I just haven't played enough to really get deep into the story and everything there yet. So that's why it's 8th and not probably higher on my list.
Fair enough. All right, so let's get on to number 7, which Mark mentions is Ghost of Tsushima for him. We'll talk about that a little later. And let me see where... we have, Daniel has Half-Life Alyx, which, to be fair, I tried to get it for Mark, but his computer just barely could not run it, and I didn't want to run into the problem of us getting something, and then the person that's supposed to be reviewing it can't run it as the way it should. Or not your computer, your Oculus or whatever, right?
No, it's my computer, but even if that game ran well, I don't really care about Half-Life, so... it's an okay game, probably, but I don't care about anything going on in the story.
To be fair, it is supposed to be one of the best experiences in VR that exists to date. I just gave my PSVR to my girlfriend's cousin, who would enjoy it much more than I would. I've had that thing. I played Astro on it, dabbled in Moss and a few other things, and then never touched it again. So I was like, what's the point of having this thing here? If I'm not using it, give it to somebody that wants it. But I would like to experience, like, an Oculus, or I guess Oculus Quest 2 that's out now, or whatever at some point, just to see what the fuss is all about. But I mean, like, this is the game I wish wasn't just at the VR, because I have heard nothing but good things about it. Daniel, when I have talked to him about it, he said he really enjoyed it. He's not huge into the VR thing either. But he says, like, as far as being a Half-Life game, I mean, they really did that whole series justice, and for having to wait so long to still not get a 3, but close enough, I guess. Somebody, was it GameSpot made it their game of the year? So.
At least VR game of the year, PC game of the year, sure.
No, I think they did it as their number 1 game of the year, if I'm not mistaken.
That is wrong.
Yeah, so. Yeah. High praise already for this game, and I know the people that have played it seem to really, really enjoy it, so cool to see it on a list. Sadly, Daniel is not here to talk more about it. Jens is Astro's Playroom, which we'll talk about in a little bit because it's a bit higher on Randy's. So the one to talk about here for our number 7 is Randy and I both have Spider-Man Miles Morales. Randy, why did you have it here?
Because it's more Spider-Man. I like what Sony's been doing with their kind of side games. They did with Uncharted Lost Legacy, where it's just kind of a side story. Basically more of the same gameplay that you're used to, different characters. I like Miles Morales, especially because it really focuses on the story. It takes a lot of the fluff that was in the first Spider-Man game out, where, you're trying to do all these crimes and stuff around the city, and they're just everywhere. And to get the platinum, you have to get like 20 of this kind and 20 of that kind. This one, it has a nice little friendly Spider-Man app, and you just click it, and it pops up where it's at, and you don't have to focus on it as much. So it streamlines the process a lot more, and it's just the Spider-Man formula that Sony has right now is fantastic, and the game was just fun. The story was great. So, more Spider-Man.
Yeah, I enjoyed a heck of a lot of what I mean, there's like never a dull moment with Spider-Man. Like it takes everything, like you said, everything that's from the first game, condenses it into a world with Miles in it. I love, what's his name? Genki?
Yeah.
Like, he's funny. He's a nice, like, sidekick to just tell you things. I love how they use the original Spider-Man in this as well, just to kind of help him out and do things. And again, it's something for me as a, Latino person, having I'm mixed, white and Latino. He's, black and Latino. Obviously, you get to celebrate that more in the movie because his dad's actually alive there. Whereas he is, spoilers for the first Spider-Man if you haven't played it yet. He dies, during that game and then kind of setting it up for this one. But like that whole, Thanksgiving scene there, like, it means a lot that they put that in. They embrace the Puerto Rican heritage. And then also, he's cool. I like him. I like the characters around him. And all his different suits are cool. I like the powers a lot of them are the same as Spider-Man, but it's just a very good Spider-Man and a cheaper, but still just as well done, just as beautiful looking package. If the first Spider-Man was rushing for Game of the Year, as a launch PS5 game, it looks great whether you play it in fidelity mode or performance mode. Either way, it looks awesome. So, yeah, Spider-Man. So 3 of us had it on our list, so that's cool. All of us, that's it for Spider-Man for us. Moving on, I think that's it for the number 7s. Number 6. Randy, this is where you have Carry On. I had Carry On at my number 10. So what makes it one of your favorite games of the year?
Just the fluidity of the character it's so hard to explain unless you play it, but just the way your creature moves through the pipes and the vents and just all of the tentacles moving around, it just feels so satisfying. The puzzles are interesting and fun. The extra powers you get along the way are fun. The game doesn't overstay its welcome. It's a pretty short game, 3-4 hours maybe, if that. I love the fact that it tells a origin story throughout the game, but never says a word, but you know exactly what's going on. It's very simplistic that way. It's just a perfect little indie game that was really fun to play on 2 and 3 sittings and get a lot of it. Like you said earlier with the Metrovania part of it, the way the different sections of that base work together, you never really felt that lost, even though it does get complex in places, but you always kind of knew what section you were in, and they all come together in a nice way. It's just a really well put together game.
Yeah, it is, and it just feels good. It feels good to you're continually growing your monster as well, and just that crunch that happens when you eat the humans feels good too, and even though it's he gets so big at times, you forget where his mouth is. So the part of the human's body is dangling, and I'm trying to eat it so I can get some of my health back. And I'm where the hell is his mouth again?
Right.
but it's yeah.
But it works really well because then you just grab one of the characters and fling them around and knock them into each other. And
I love that too.
It's great.
And then when you get the extra powers, it's cool because it makes it easier to unlock switches and other things, and you can scare them with your growl thing, and they freak out and run. It's and it's just there's a lot of just nice, like you said, it's just a nice small indie game that they just did a lot of great stuff with it. And like I said, it kind of turns the whole Metroidvania on your head, because you're technically, I guess if you look at it from the eyes of the human, you're the villain in this, but it's done in a good way where you feel good being the villain too. So yeah, you definitely should go check it out. It's on Game Pass. If you don't have it on Game Pass, it's not super expensive either. So you should definitely go check it out. Hopefully, we endorse that for you. Take advantage of these sales while they're on them. Because I know the Nintendo one ends pretty quick. I know the other two are on for a while. But yeah, especially if you can get it on Switch because it's portable. There's that too. So number 6. So I won't be done talking for a little bit. But Streets of Rage 4 is my number 6. This is a game that I absolutely loved. It's one of the games that like I still think about when I'm like, not to mention that music is fantastic. If we were to like rank like soundtracks to listen to when you're just not like doing whatever
for 7 hours.
Yeah, like go hit that up, man. It is fantastic. Just such good stuff. And they got the original Streets of Rage composer to do a lot of the tracks. So worth your time. I love the new characters. I can't remember their names at the moment, but I love both of them. One is the daughter of Zach? Is that
was Axel,
Randy?
right? Axel?
No, Axel's the white dude.
It wasn't Axel's daughter?
No, she's it's the guy you get as the secret Frith character before you finish the main quest. But yeah, I mean either way, it's like she attacks with a guitar, so that's awesome in itself. And she has like one of the best, like she has a freaking AoE like special that like takes out half the yard. And then I love
it's Adam's daughter.
Adam, okay, that's it. Yes, Adam's daughter. And what's the other guy's name with the cybernetic arms? He is
Floyd.
Yes, Floyd. He's awesome too because he's just like he's like your big bruiser, but he can also move pretty well, and he's fun to use too, along with all the other Blaze and Axel and the regular Streets of Rage characters. But it looks so good too. Just the art style is fantastic for that game, and man, and it doesn't overstay its welcome either. So you can get through it, and then if you want to go back and play more, you can to unlock some of the old characters and whatnot. And then of course it's fun in co-op too. But Randy, I mean, you want to say anything?
No, I just exactly what you said. It's nostalgia done perfect. I want more like this for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be hard now for a beat 'em up to come out. It's gonna be judged on this as to whether you did it right. So, I mean, and then it really sticks to the old school. So, like, even doing that for the most part, it's still pretty great. So, Marc has Fall Guys, which we'll talk about in a little bit because it's a bit higher on someone's list here, and Daniel's Wasteland 3 is also higher on someone's list. But he wound up reviewing the game for the site. I know he liked it a lot. So that will be it. Marc also liked it a lot too, so he'll talk about it a little bit here. But Jens, Star Wars Squadrons.
Oh yes.
The Star Wars game you wanted?
And it's pretty close. It's pretty much what I had hoped. I mean, I knew ahead of time that it was not going to be as substantial as the old LucasArts games. So I'm obviously a huge fan of X-Wing, TIE Fighter, X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, and so on. But really, I'm just impressed with how well this game gets the gameplay, like the core TIE Fighter or X-Wing gameplay right, and how much it was able to translate from, if TIE Fighter, a lot of the keys on your keyboard were double bound because there are just so many commands to deal with. And here they have managed to map it on a joystick. They say, okay, if you hold down Y, then you can use the D-pad to redistribute. It's they do
I love that too. Like, you actually have to think about when you're shooting, do I want to put more power into my lasers and stuff, or do I want to stay balanced, or do I want to put more on my shields? Yeah.
This has always been the thing about these games. This is, if you've played everything, all the systems in this game, managing balancing between your laser, your engines, and your shields, managing your throttle, wingman commands, using ion cannons to disable subsystems, targeting individual subsystems, like scanning ships, all that stuff. Like, this is all just straight out of those old games. So it feels so much closer to those old games than I could have expected. And that was as far as content, we knew what it was going to be, right? 8-hour campaign and a bunch of multiplayer. So that's where I knew going in it wasn't going to be like the old stuff. TIE Fighter had a 150-hour campaign if you counted the DLC with it.
Jesus.
That was huge. Yeah, so if this were a 20-hour game, as far as the single player is concerned, it would probably be like my number 1 or 2 on this list. If it had competitive campaigns, the same way that X-Wing versus TIE Fighter used to have. So, like, it's much more broken out into your modern, the way your team deathmatch is, and there's objective-based kind of individual missions and things. But, like, X-Wing versus TIE Fighter had, like, okay, it's a campaign with an overarching goal and individual missions, and it's the same team that does, like, 5 missions in a row, and depending on who wins which missions, it branches the story in a way, and it changes the balance of power. It's like old games in this same series, or at least the games that inspired this one, already did a lot more with multiplayer than this game is doing. So that is my one caveat about it, is, like, don't expect this to be the breadth of content that you would normally expect from, an X-Wing or TIE Fighter game. But I think mechanically it is so good. It just feels so good to play. The Thrustmaster support is fantastic on Xbox. You can map all your buttons, but honestly, I like the default button mapping. It's pretty great. And it feels really good, because you've got that big throttle. So, like, throttling up and down feels super nice. It's a great feeling space sim. And yet it's only $40, so I guess you can't really complain too much.
And it's constantly on sale, too. It's been on sale from anywhere to, like, $17 to $24 digitally. $17, like, if you buy it physical. So, I mean...
Here's the thing, though. I would be happy with this being, like, a $60 or $70 game, even, if it were, like, a huge game. Like,
well, I think that's why it's cheaper, right? Is because they know it's not a...
Right, but I just, like, this is great for what it is. They put it out as a budget game, which is, considering how good it looks and how good it feels, is you can't argue with it. But yeah. I just want more. I hope that they do more of this, and this is not just like a one-off that they threw out there and, it burned short and bright, and then we're going to forget about X-Wing versus TIE Fighter again.
I feel like it's more of a test, right? To see how many people they really were interested in it.
Yes, and I hope
based on sales is how much they put into it going forward.
Do we know how well it's doing? You've looked at the sales data for the year, right?
I don't know. I'd have to look again at the sales data for the last couple months while we're talking here to be able to tell you.
Sorry, didn't mean to put you on the spot.
But it's done fairly well. I mean,
that's good. So yeah, hopefully, more of this, please. I'm putting it on my top 10 because I want more.
Fair enough. I mean, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to highlight these games we really enjoyed and see if we can get more people to play, because more people play means more people buy them, and maybe EA does make that a higher priority for themselves. So I think that means we got through all the number 6s. Getting on to number 5 is Daniel with Crusader Kings 3, which I think this is one of the games that we're going to have even though, I don't know if Daniel's going to wind up being on the show or not to be able to really fight for it. This is a game that I just haven't had time to play, but I've been interested in. It's talk about like one of the best strategy games of this year. So definitely doesn't surprise me. He loves strategy games. Doesn't surprise me to see it on his list. But man, it's one that you should check out. It's also on Game Pass. So if you like strategy games and haven't really thought about, what about Crusader Kings? Definitely one that you should check out. Jens picked that ever-loving Persona 5, The Royal. Mm-hmm. As you would guess, Marc has it higher, so we'll talk about that later, even though these guys talked about that game a bunch, but we'll talk about it again. And Daniel had Wasteland 3 as his number 6. Marc has it as number 5. What did you enjoy about Wasteland 3?
I mean, it's basically a sci-fi version of Divinity Original Sin. Like, co-op gameplay, still turn-based. It's really inventive, I think. Really good writing. Nice setting. I didn't like Wasteland 2 at all, so I'm kind of surprised I like this one a lot. But, yeah, it's a really good game. I wish I had it on PS4. Just gotta play I'd play it with the end, but...
Yeah, well, that's fine. I need to play it with David on the Xbox, so thankfully it's on Game Pass now. It's definitely on the list.
Yeah, it's just a really good, turn-based co-op RPG.
Yeah, I remember from Daniel's review, he liked a lot that it seems like all the team members are important.
Yeah.
That they're not wasteful, or everybody has a role.
Yeah, and you can also create your own character if you want to, or, pick traits that you like, or, if you're missing, animal trainer, or, an explosives guy, you can just kind of make your own, go from there. It was good all around, I think.
And, well, Mark's number 6 was Fall Guys, and for Randy, it was his number 5. The darling of multiplayer for this year, Fall Guys. What you think, Randy?
Absolutely love this game. It's become our Friday tradition to come back and play almost every week. We've missed a few here and there. But I think other than MLB The Show, which is always the game I put the most hours into in a year, I've played this game more than any other game. It's just so much fun and so infuriating at the same time, with your little bean guy falling over all over the place. And I love that they're coming out with new content so frequently. It's not like every few months you get something new. It's every 2 months you get a new season, and halfway through the season they'll do a mid-season change where they put in these new variants, and they keep it fresh, which is fantastic for a game like that, where I think if they would have waited a little longer, it would have felt a little tiring to play the same games over and over. I'm just still really, really mad that there's one trophy on there that is win 5 games in a row. And when that game first came out, I won 4 games in a row twice, and now I'm struggling to get past 2. So I'm never going to get that damn thing. I was so close. But no, it's just a fantastic multiplayer game, like you said. I think Among Us took a lot of the steam away from that game, which Among Us is very good too. Obviously, it doesn't go because it came out a few years ago. But if Among Us didn't become popular, I think Fall Guys would still be going strong right now.
Oh, Among Us is so much better a multiplayer experience to me.
But it's just walking around. You're not doing anything. You're just walking around, right? Like, it's not.
Sure, you're just walking around. That's why it's so great.
Jens likes Among Us because he's so good at figuring out when I'm the flipping imposter. Anytime I'm the imposter, Jens just goes, "It's Randy." Like,
yeah,
I haven't even seen you the whole time.
Well, he knows you too well now, Randy.
I would love to put Among Us in my top 10 this year, if only it were eligible.
No.
It's so great.
Sadly.
I thought the game, Fall Guys has an intentionally kind of bad physics system, but it leads to fun. And it's, a good reminder that, big co-op game show games can exist. Kind of bring back 1 vs. 100. Or make, a Battle Royale version of Nickelodeon Gus.
Yeah, I love 1 vs. 400 because I was good at it.
Yeah, I just wasn't good at generating revenue, apparently.
Yeah.
But
Phil Spencer has talked about it.
They should make a Battle Royale version of Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Ooh.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Come on, Nickelodeon. Loosen that license. So it can happen. So I think that's it for the my number 5 is Last of Us Part 2, which we'll talk about later. But I wanted to put that out there. I think we're through the number 5s. Number 4 for Marc is Hades. We'll talk about that a little bit later. For Jens, it's Final Fantasy VII Remake. We'll also talk about that a little bit later. And this is where we get to talking about Astro's Playroom. The tech demo that really not only showcases the controller, but absolutely is adorable. Randy, why is it your number 4?
God, if it was just a little bit longer, it might have. Well, if this game came out in 2019, it would have been my number 1. But 2020 is too damn hard to get up.
Over Death Stranding?
Yes, absolutely. I absolutely love Astro's Playroom. I platinumed this thing so fast and then kept playing. Like, usually my MO on these games, on any game I ever platinum, is I play the game, I beat the game, I decide I want to platinum it, I platinum, and I delete it the moment after I get the platinum. And I couldn't stop playing this thing. Yes, I know some of the levels that were very focused on showing off something with the controller can be a little wonky. It's always like that. Anything with 6-axis, the Uncharted game on the Vita wanted you to touch the screen way too much, or put your Vita next to a lamp. I mean, they want to show off all the physics and all the little details, but the amount of love that was put into this game, and the amount of times I saw something and would just freak out with all the little astrobots, like putting on a scene and sitting there trying to figure out what game they're doing, especially on games I just didn't know, was really cool. It was one of those where I got done playing and I went and tried to find YouTube videos of, okay, what were these games? There was several on there that I was clueless on, but then you would run into ones like Silent Hill or Resident Evil or Final Fantasy VII, and you're like, yes! Or even like smaller ones that I'm blanking on right now that I'm like, okay, that's so cool that they gave that game
Escape
love.
and
yeah. So it's just the amount of love that was put into this, and the
artifacts, finding all the artifacts.
But the platforming itself is really good. The music's fantastic. It's way better than it had any right to be. This is the Cobra Kai of video games.
Wow. That's that phrase. Jens, you had it.
It's one of those where you're like, oh, this is a cool idea, and then you play it or watch Cobra Kai and you go, holy crap.
I just love looking at those photorealistically rendered old PlayStation things. It's so pretty.
Yeah, I love that too. You can move it around and play with it. And
the museum aspect of it, like I'm often not a collectibles kind of guy, and this is a game where I haven't done it all yet, but I do really want to get all the collectibles because I do want to fill up that museum room because I love that museum room. And I do think that some of those gimmicky parts go on for too long, but I don't think mechanically, I don't think there's anything wrong with the 6-axis controls or the touchpad controls. If anything, it showcases how good those have become since the last iteration of a Sony controller. So I think the controls themselves are good. It's just because it's the demo, they overindulge a little bit as far as balance. But it really just, the tactileness of all the minigames in this game really just is a beautiful blueprint for, hey, other developers, here's what you can do to make interactions in games more fun.
Yeah, I mean, I like the motion controls where you put the monkey suit on. And it is amazing to see how specific they've made it now where you can barely move it and it actually moves and it
works incredibly well.
These big swings or whatever you had to do sometimes with the 6-axis. And with the little frog in the cooling springs where you feel like you're doing the spring, that feels weird, but it feels cool at the same time. It's just, there's just so much there to love, and I, that theme song got stuck in my head when I was doing other things. I'm like, damn it, Sony, I hate you.
Yeah, the SSD song is the one that will always just randomly pop into my head. But Jens brought up the museum, and that was the other thing that they never had to do. But the amount of things in that museum that you can then interact with.
Yep.
You can turn on and open up all of the systems. There's the Sony sign that's on a wall, and you punch it and it drops and it shows the old Sony logo from the 90s, and one of the bots freaks out and puts it up there. It's just, you can climb up on the light guns and turn them on and change them colors, or switch the game on the Vita. It's just so much little detail in that game. That's what you do.
And the mural that you make while you get the little pieces.
So good. And Death Stranding's even in the game, so that's why it's 4 for me.
Right, yeah. Well, since it contains your Game of the Year of last year, shouldn't it be your Game of the Year of this year?
Well, again, 2020 was too good. the top 3 on my list came out within months of each other, and the moment I got done, I don't think anything's topping these 3.
I'm telling you, this has been one of the best console launches for me that I can remember as far as quality content.
It's true. It's very true.
Yep. I mean, maybe the launch itself may have issues with people and the way you get the systems and everything, but the games that came out.
Only better launch, the GameCube.
So, yeah, why not? Okay, well, it didn't make my list because there's just I knew it was going to make a few people's, and I really wanted to put it on, but it's just like one of those, like, I wanted to highlight a few other things. But Astro's Playroom is just, you are doing yourself a disservice if you don't at least try it once if you get your PS5. Like, it's well worth it. And especially if you have kids, like, play with them.
I just, I didn't play Astro's Bot Rescue because that was a VR game. So I really didn't, and I didn't really know anything about Astro's Playroom. I was not at all invested. It was really Randy by raving about it. Saying like, no, you really need to download this right now and try it out. It's so good that I gave it a chance. So don't make my mistake.
Hey, so far I think I'm still batting 100 with Jens.
True.
It's Astro and Carry On are the two games I've raved to him about, and he liked them both. So I try to pick and choose with Jens because I don't want to ruin my reputation.
Interesting that Bugsnax was also free on PS Plus for launch of the PS5, and I'll say this: it's okay. Like, I tried it a couple of times. Like, I don't know. I couldn't get into it.
Okay, so I finished Bugsnax. I will say it was a cute game. It was a great idea. And no pun intended, it's buggy. Like, there's just aspects of that game that just feel off. And it did not feel like a next-gen game. Like, out of Spider-Man and Astro's Playroom and Sackboy, and then you go and you play Bugsnax, it felt like a PS4 game. The load times.
Well, to be fair, it's an indie title.
I get it, but the load times were really shocking to me. But I really like the idea, and I really hope that they got enough money from PlayStation to put it on PlayStation Plus for 2 months now, that they're able to make a sequel. Because I want to see them expand that idea. It was a unique idea where they took a lot of the Pokemon Snap ideas and created this weird universe. And the ending is weird and kooky and interesting. So I really hope that they make a sequel.
Fair enough.
I don't know, give me Octodad too. I want more Octodad. If you're going to sequelize anything.
That's fair too. Jens' number 4 is Final Fantasy VII Remake, which we'll talk about later. Number 4 for Daniel is Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which we'll talk about in a little bit here. Marc's is Hades, which we'll talk about. So let's start off with Marc. You reviewed the game. You put a ton of time into it.
Yep.
I pretty much understand why you like it. Assassin's Creed Valhalla. You're an Assassin's Creed lover, but you enjoyed this because it's much more like the older Assassin's Creed, right?
It's like the good ones, yeah. Not the bad recent ones. I mean, it's not as long as Odyssey or Origins. That helps quite a bit. The gameplay feels faster. They actually have like stealth return because it wasn't in either of the other two games. It's really good. It's a good marriage between old and new Assassin's Creed. And if they make like another one in this spirit, I wouldn't mind. Even though I'm still not like 100% sold on some of the like gameplay changes. And the only weird part about Valhalla is like they kind of fumbled the free running stuff, like the parkour. But that's like the only minor complaint I really have with that game. And
Fair
what about
enough.
Hades?
Jens, did you actually start playing a little bit of it, or?
Yeah, I'm about 2 hours in. It
do you
feels
think?
pretty good. It feels pretty good so far.
Does it feel better than the other one?
Combat's better. It becomes more Soulsy with every iteration. I'm now like doing a lot of shield. I mean, like you get that shield which you control separately. You've kind of got you're using health items to.
I was just gonna say, Marc was selling me on the game, and then Jens had to bring up that Souls word, and I don't know.
Well, one thing about like you don't have
They map the buttons the same way.
Well, you can equip anything on that second arm. Like, you don't have to have a shield. You can just.
No, you don't have to have it. But I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Well, they kind of put everything on the bumper. I mean, they put it on the bumpers last time as well, I think, if I remember correctly. But like health is managed very differently now. The dodge feels different. It's certainly more fast paced. You also die pretty quickly, and I don't think you just regenerate health. I've not regenerated health without.
The first thing you should do is upgrade your ration system, or your ration pouch.
Gotcha.
Like that and the quiver are pretty useful. Combat is basically like light and heavy attack on R1 and R2, and then L2 is your bow, and L1 is like your second arm. So you can use it as a shield, like a shield bash or parry, or you can just put another axe on arm and use that for heavier attacks as well.
I like the stamina system. I like that you regain stamina by having successful light attacks, but heavy attacks use stamina.
Yeah, and you haven't even gotten like the main attacks, like you can hold like R2 and then press different face buttons to like do like special attacks.
Oh, that sounds good. That sounds really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm liking the combat. I mean, Odyssey also had decent combat. It just
Valhalla it's faster and it's not as dumb.
Yeah.
Like also,
well,
I mean, the thing about Valhalla, like you got your starting weapons, like your starting gear. I kept that stuff through the entire game because you can just keep upgrading it. And at a certain point, you get other gear, but it's like, why bother? Like, I already have this stuff that's better than the current, or the stuff it has picked up. So who cares?
I haven't gotten to. I guess I'm still too early. I haven't reached my DLC special edition gear yet. So maybe that'll be what I use.
No, you'll get that. You'll get that when you get to England.
Okay,
that'll be like in your main house.
Makes sense.
But yeah, I think it's a really good game, or good Assassin's Creed game. Like I would actually, it's not the best one, but I'd probably rank it like top 5, maybe number 5, but still.
That's good praise.
Yeah, I assume you're playing as the female one.
I mean, of course.
Yeah.
I will say I don't like her character model nor her voice actress as much as Cassandra.
I mean, the funny thing is you can switch at any time.
That's true, but I'm not going to do it anymore.
To be fair, apparently they only wanted it to be the female Ivor, but due to the reasons why Ubisoft people are gone, we have the male Ivor as well.
I'm expecting that she'll grow on me.
One funny thing is, I looked at the guy, Ivor, like the voice actor. I mean, he looks like a Viking himself, like the actual actor. It's hilarious.
Oh, what's funny to me is that, they made Cassandra the canon character. So when they refer to Cassandra in this game, the previous game now, it is about Cassandra. So I think we all have accepted that Cassandra was the correct character for Odyssey.
Well, I mean, she was just leaps and bounds better than the other characters, so.
Yep. You can even get, like, not her gear, but you can pick up, like, an armor set, and you can get, like, her, like, Spartan kick thing that she did.
Oh, yeah, that was a good move.
So, I think it's a great game. I'm really surprised.
Well, I'm glad that one of your favorite series has become something that you can rave about. That's always a plus.
Yeah, it's helpful when that series is weird because it keeps going, like, bad and good constantly. Like...
It's hard to be consistent when a series goes on that long.
And it's not a yearly franchise, but it used to be, or it's still pretty regular. So,
and thank God they have stopped the yearly.
Some of the early impressions of Valhalla were talking about how it's a little bit rough with the cinematic style, and
I think it's not. I mean, it's
a lot of it was the frame rate and the screen tearing, and it wasn't necessarily the bad.
I did get a little bit of screen tearing that I saw even on the Series X, so it's not completely gone.
I mean, I should show you some YouTube videos I took, of the screen, the frame rate dropping like a fucking stone, and I'm like, what's going? I'm in the main area, I'm not in a battle, but it's just weird frame rate issues constantly.
I mean, on the Series X, performance mode for that game seems pretty darn good.
Yeah,
but I did notice a tiny bit of tearing, but nothing, not on the level of when we remember what screen tearing used to be like on the 360.
Right.
Oh Lord, that was something else. Thank God we don't have to live in those days again. But going to another Ubisoft game from this one that I feel like is very underrated because it comes out after Valhalla, after Watch Dogs Legion, which I think Watch Dogs Legion is the sour one of the bunch.
Yeah.
So Immortals Phoenix Rising is extremely good. It doesn't, I want to say 20 hours in and I feel like I've done a lot and I don't feel like I have to play it for 80 hours. So, that is a plus when you have these Ubisoft games. I feel like they go on and on and on and on. And so, and you actually fill up your own map with stuff if you want. So there's you can go on these perches and you can actually press a button to find stuff if you want to clutter your map, or you can just not do that at all, which is what I do, and just go find things as you're exploring, which is the best way to do it. I mean, it obviously has the navigation thing where it's supposed to tell you where to go and what you're supposed to do, but I just I love the world. It's each one has each god has their own world that you go to, and I just love the banter between Zeus and kind of think of his name, Prometheus, and they're hilarious in the background, like narrating your story. And as you go, and you have a voice actor. I picked the female Phoenix, since it's the one that's on the cover. It was just like, it seems like it's meant for her to be the character you play as. So, they're both just called Phoenix. Everybody's called Phoenix. Doesn't matter how you make it. So it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I mean, and I love the Tartaros rooms with the puzzles. Like those are, I mean, and they get more creative as they go along. So, very interesting how like much more crazy they get the farther you get in the game. And that's part of the fun too, is you get things. I love the fact that like you get all the weapons early too. Like really quick, you get the arrow, the bow, the axe, and the sword, and then you can just upgrade it and play however you want and do whatever you want. It's just a fun game that's also funny. I like the art style, and it's just very well done. And I like that they didn't have to overdo it like they did with the other ones. It's just sad that it seems like it's not selling as well as the other two, because it's not an own franchise, but I hope that it can keep going, at least, because I'm enjoying it a lot. And it's on sale right now, so you should definitely go check it out. And yeah, Hades, which is quite a few people's game of the year. It's IGN's game of the year. We'll see where it winds up ranking at the end for us, but it's number 4 for Marc, number 3 for me. I think Marc is farther. I think you wind up beating the game and everything. I have not beat the game yet. But I just enjoy it. Every time that I put it on my Switch, I wind up doing like 4 or 5 runs before I stop to play something else. But it's just like, I like the way that it does the story. I know a lot of people, there's some people that don't. The whole dying to have to get more story or whatever. I like the fact that every time you die, there's something else you learn. Some other character that's there that maybe wasn't there, or checks up on you, talks about how your run went or how you died, or, I like how you unlock different things as you go along as well for the areas that you're in before you go into like the actual making the run. I like Hades, Zagreus as a character. I think he's very well done. I love the fact that the gods help you, and then just Hades is just constantly being an ass and saying things with you right there too, just to like, put it more into. I would say that I still think maybe I like Bastion the most still, but man, Hades is up there as far as the Supergiant games go. I just don't know how they keep like topping themselves every time.
Well, Bastion is the most straightforward. You basically have like 8 or 10 stages and then it's over.
Right, yeah.
Like this one, you have 4 stages, but you have to play them, 100 times.
Yeah, but what I like is that each game that they've made is somewhat different from the next. So they have no problems with challenging themselves and doing something different, and that's good too. Like, this isn't like, I wouldn't say this is dying for the sake of dying, like some games. But it's almost like a Dark Souls or some other games where you learn from dying. You learn what works best for you. And I don't know why, but you unlock a gun in this game, so.
Well, you haven't even beaten the game yet, have you?
No, I haven't, but it's funny that when you get the gun, they all start saying the mortals should not have guns.
Well, once you beat the game, I think it's at least twice. It unlocks like modifiers for each weapon, and then the game gets really crazy because you feel like the weapons are doing way different shit.
That's awesome. I still like the trident.
Yeah.
Nobody touches me unless they have the stupid halo around them. Then it gets
right. Yeah, I mean it's a good game. Like you said, I just don't like the repetition of the story. Or, you just have to keep dying over and over to unlock new story beats. And I understand kind of why they do that, but at a certain point, it's like, well, if I want to unlock the next level with Hades, heart meter, it's like I could die 13 times. And it's like, that's a slog, man. Come on. There are kind of some ways to speed it up a little, but not that much. But yeah, just the actual gameplay of playing Zagreus is great. At least to me.
No, yeah, I that's what I enjoy the most of it too, is that's why it works, right? Like, cause there's roguelikes where the main, like, path through is not always that enjoyable, so...
Most roguelikes don't have a story, so...
That's true, too, but I'm just saying, like, not only are you improving yourself on each run, there's a story, and then also, like, I mean, I think the good thing is that the gameplay is also really fun, so it encourages you to keep wanting to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see where it winds up, landing as far as, our main ones there. Daniel also has another one that Randy played a bit. I played a bit. Doom Eternal is his number 3. Look, Doom Eternal is a really good, great even FPS. I mean, like, you know what you're getting with Doom. It's fast. It's bloody. It's gory. It has really good music. I don't think there's anything wrong there's a lot of people that freaking enjoy Doom. I mean, it was one of the Game of the Year nominations, I think, for a reason. I don't know, for me, I just had other games that stuck more with me, but I think it's better than the first Doom.
That's the thing. I don't know about Yen. I think I can kind of speak for Yen, but I just didn't like playing the original Doom at all. Like, if anything, it was kind of too quick. And
the reboot Doom, yeah.
Yeah, the 2017 version. And when
See,
it came out.
I've heard a lot of people now express the opinion that the reboot Doom was just right and Doom Eternal was not as good. But I don't know. Those are just not... My thing about that particular version of Doom is that it didn't feel like Doom to me because it was so focused on up-close and personal
like
finishers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
you have to do finishers because you run out of... That's like one of the ways to get your health back.
Yeah, or health or ammo. And it's like,
and I did not enjoy that mechanic, but again, I know a lot of people did. I know that game is very beloved. So a lot of this just comes down to taste.
Randy?
Yeah, mine was, I'm too dumb for that game anymore. It's not just a run and gun like the old Doom and just blow stuff up. Like, they both said it's all about doing the finishers and that gives you your health back. And then there's another button combination you can do to regain ammunition, and then this kind of finisher will give you this, and then just trying to remember all that stuff. And then they do a great job with the level design as far as throwing different kind of creatures out there to kind of change things up, and this creature you need to do this kind of attack to, and this one you need to do this kind of finisher to. So it just kind of keeps you on your toes so much. But my thumbs just could not do all of the things it wanted to do. It was like you're hitting down at this point and then R2 here and L2 for that thing, and trying to remember all of the button combinations. It was too much for just I want to blow stuff up kind of a game. But for the people that do enjoy it, I see why. I played it for a few hours when it first came out and enjoyed it. It was a lot for me.
Fair enough. I'll probably go back to it here and there. It's great that it's on Game Pass, thanks to the Bethesda deal. But yeah, I mean, it's Doom, more of that Doom style, and there's a lot of people that enjoy it, so cool that Daniel really enjoyed it a lot there. Jens is Yakuza Like a Dragon, which we'll talk about in a little bit, because I have it a little bit higher, and we talked about Marc's. Randy has Ori and the Will of the Wisps.
It's just so good. We talked about Spider-Man Miles Morales just being more Spider-Man. Ori is just more Ori, which is fantastic. I do like this one because it focuses more on combat than the first one. The first one you didn't really have much. Your offensive attack was deflecting projectiles, and this one you actually have a sword swinging attack. So it kind of makes you more aggressive in your play style than you did in the first one. The world is just like the first one, just beautiful. It's such a beautiful, stunning game. The art style is fantastic. I think it's really well done, Metroidvania style game. And just, again, it was really tough between this one and Astro, which one I wanted to put third. But I think as far as the platforming goes, this one has it in spades. It just plays so well. The story is fine. It's just kind of there. I don't think it hit the kind of marks that the first one did. Which is a little bit of a knock on it, but I don't play Ori for the story. I play it for the precise platforming, and
you have to
the
be
bosses
precise.
are great. The bosses are fantastic. There's a couple of them that become a lot more cinematic.
Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna say. They feel very epic, and even that first one, it's just like, wow, this feels different. Like you're fighting.
The chase sequences a bit more, but they do it in such a amazing way that it doesn't feel old, and they throw a lot of stuff at you. So it's just a great game.
Yeah, absolutely adore it. It's one of the best games of this year. Definitely, whether on PC, on Xbox, now on Switch, you can buy it on Switch if you want. Well worth checking out. It is, and it absolutely looks stunning on those 4K TVs. Have you gotten to try it out, Jens, or
which game?
Ori?
No, I haven't played the first one yet.
You could play it without playing the first one, but we should put it on your to-do list there. I know it's long, Jens. But...
Right.
Yeah.
But alright, that's it for our number 3s. Number 2, let's go ahead and get this one out of the way. It's the game of the pandemic, Animal Crossing, New Horizons.
None of us like except for Daniel.
Daniel liked it. Anaya liked it. It's okay. It's fine. I know what it's trying to do. It's weird saying that because I like Spiritfarer, but I don't know. Animal Crossing, it's just not my thing. Marc and Jens, you guys both played it when it was first out. Yep. And y'all gave it the old college try.
I understood why, it was appealing for like a week or two, but then after that, it's like, this is kind of, A, the same, and then B, nothing kind of changes.
It never really grabbed me.
Yeah. Like, it was kind of cool to, visit your island or visit, a friend's island. Like, that was neat, but that was about it. And I found that, the building interface to be really unwieldy.
And then also the selling system is a bit off.
I mean, if it had it at the time, I'd have rather just played, co-op Stardew Valley. At least there's some action to that game or some adventure.
Ooh, does Stardew Valley have a co-op mode?
Yes, it does now. Yeah.
Ooh.
Animal Crossing is just fishing or bug collecting. That's kind of about it.
Yep. Yeah, you do a lot of the same tests. But the people that love that game absolutely love that game. And again, that's why I say, when people were first going into those lockdowns, that was the game. It was everywhere. It was the zeitgeist for quite a while and still is in some form. But,
it's time that other games have planted it, like Fall Guys or Among Us.
Yeah. Definitely. I think it's also because those have an actually good multiplayer component, right? Yeah. Whereas Animal Crossing multiplayer component is, well, come visit my island. All right, I saw your island. I'm going back to my island now. Cool.
Yeah, it's not like you can do anything on the island. I mean, even if you give control over, it's not heavy or anything.
Yeah. Randy, any thoughts on Animal Crossing?
No, it's just not my game. And again, it's like I said about other games. For people that love it, cool. It's just not my thing.
And, number 2 for Randy is Final Fantasy VII Remake, which we'll talk about in a little bit here. Jens, Demon's Souls was one of the talks of the town of the last episode, but you love your Demon's Souls, so.
I will say, revisiting it, the thing that sets it apart from later games in the series that makes me still like it more, I think, is just the structure with the 5 archstones and each leading down kind of a series of areas. And being able to do those in a non-linear way, and then finding things, 2-1 has an item that really, really is useful against enemies in, 1-2 or whatever, as far as that stuff. So just kind of, and it also helps that when you get stuck, cause this, it happens obviously all the time, you'll get stuck in one area where you think I'm too frustrated to continue over here. You have, 4 other paths that you can go down. And try something else, and maybe you'll get something that'll then make that other thing easier. And it becomes you're kind of prodding at it with your exploration. And, it's really fun to do that again. Obviously, later on the series goes to big contiguous kind of connected areas. But I really like the way the Demon's Souls did it. And I really like a lot of the design decisions that they made at the time with the world tendency and other things like that, got phased out later on. But it does fix the co-op, and it's more you can set a code, I think, a limit, so that you don't get randos joining your co-op game like what happened with Demon's Souls originally. So, it's Demon's Souls. We know what it is at this point. It's a third-person dungeon crawler action RPG. Amazing level designs, really fascinating lore, incredible soundtrack that they completely redid to mixed effect with this. Same with some of the visual changes, but overall, this is the most technically impressive game, I think, of the generation so far. Everything about the presentation of it is, spot on, and the performance is rock solid. So, considering what Demon's Souls does with the new consoles, I'm just excited for other developers to catch up.
Well, we shall see, but the one true Sony next-gen game so far, good to see that it lives up to the billing as far as Yens is concerned. And, well, Marc's is also a Final Fantasy VII Remake, by the way, so interesting that all of us have a different number one game. The one thing that is in common is that they are only playable on a Sony system, either PS4 or PS5. So, I think that says something a lot about the, obviously one of them is the deal that these, the two of the companies have, and then obviously their, original studio games are just on another level. Really, Nintendo just didn't have the landmark game that they've had in other years. Really to compete. Honestly, Nintendo really got to coast a lot on Animal Crossing. So,
What are you talking about? They made a new Hyrule Warriors. Biggest game of the year.
Well, yeah, it was really good, I feel like, but sadly none of us got to play it here, so we haven't been able to talk about it, but I enjoyed another Musou game this year, and you guys will have another Musou game to talk about next year. I don't know, I liked Hyrule Warriors, the original one. I just don't have the time to go get put into another one at the moment. So, let's go through this here. Number one for Daniel is Ghost of Tsushima, which was Marc's number 7, Randy's number 10, and Daniel's number 1, and Jens didn't even have it on his list, even though he talked about it quite a bit. Jens kind of talked about why he didn't, but, what did you enjoy of Ghost of Tsushima?
It was good combat.
Yeah.
Agreed. The combat and the presentation really
it looks
are the
very
stand-up
nice
things.
even on PS4. It's very beautiful.
Oh, they did all sorts of great, they patched that. That's one of the games that they patched at launch, isn't it?
Yeah.
To give it the frame rate and the 4K and all the light ray stuff.
That and the other stellar PS4 game, Days Gone.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's a good thing I haven't finished Days Gone because I can go back to the next gen version now.
Oh boy.
No, you're fine. My biggest problem with Ghost of Tsushima was just it was too long, and you're doing the same thing in hour 1 that you're doing in hour 30.
Okay, sorry to interrupt you, but Ghost of Tsushima is a 40-hour game. We were always talking about these Assassin's Creed games that are in the hundreds of hours.
Yeah.
And also are similar thing with the same kinds of activity over and over again. So what makes Ghost of Tsushima a game that is much smaller scale, significantly smaller scale than those, what makes it more egregious to you?
It has a vastly limited upgrade system. You don't really get new moves or new abilities. Like you do in Valhalla for sure. I had a whole menu full of crap that I wasn't using, but I could have. That's kind of the biggest reason. And also, I think Valhalla, or at least, other Assassin's Creed games have better characters and a better story, even side content characters.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad we agree on the story. The story really is what turned me off the most with this.
It was very boilerplate, I thought. I know you had problems about, they wouldn't have had Mongols in the 13th century or whatever. I didn't care about that.
I had problems with A, the historical accuracy, and B, the ludicrous, single-minded focus on honor as everybody's character motivation.
Yeah, that's weird considering what he does, in the game.
That's the whole, it's supposed to be the whole conflict, right? The conflict between what he has to do versus his code, but the way it is presented is quite silly, in my opinion.
They also didn't get too deep into the side characters as much as I wanted. So it's all focused on, the uncle who kind of sucked, I thought.
A lot of the side quests just kind of fizzle out.
Yeah. I like the older woman who, her family died, and she's just in a revenge mission for that. And
I like that quest line. I like that quest line because she keeps killing people while you're there, and you always chastise her, and she just keeps doing it.
Yeah.
And it becomes a running joke that, no, we were supposed to interrogate him over and over.
But, I know you played it differently. I played that entire game with the same stupid stance. It wasn't until 20 hours in I realized, I have other stances. I should have been using it.
I don't know how you did that, considering how the game is constantly chastising you if you're not using the stance it wants you to use.
That's the thing it didn't for me. So it bugged me once or twice, and I just ignored it and moved on, and it never did again.
Maybe it gave up on you. You're a lost cause.
Yeah. What'd you think of it?
Yeah, I'm kind of with what you guys are saying. I thought the combat was okay, but like Mark said, it drags on a little bit too long. And there's while it tries to pad itself with a bunch of the collectibles and stuff,
haikus.
There's too many of those things.
Yeah.
There's not a ton of haikus, but as far as the chasing the foxes and stuff, it just felt like
that was some of my favorite content.
But there was just too many times when you're sitting there and going, well, I have 8 foxes I have to go do, or I have to go.
Again, and that's when you put on the podcast.
So many fanners. Yeah, it is a good podcast game, but I don't think that's a positive on a game that is trying to tell the story. And
see, but again, I feel like Assassin's Creed does that way more and way worse than this game does. This game is fairly contained. We could 100% it in a week.
To be fair, the last Assassin's Creed game I've played was Black Flag, so it's before they went completely over the top with some of that stuff.
That was still a pretty large game, trust me. I
just don't understand. I have all sorts of complaints about this game. I do not understand the complaint of it's too big or there are too many activities.
Well,
no, it's not that there's too many. It's just it's not very varied.
It's too. Yeah, there's 6. There's 6 total side things, and that's about it.
Oh no, I agree. I mean, hey, I was bored of it by the end of it. I was ready for it to be done, but it didn't feel like they gave you here's just a fire hose of content.
Yeah, in a way, I was kind of giving it praise because we just wanted more. We wanted more of the side quests because some of the side quests were really good. It was just, I don't know if they were saving some for a sequel that's going to come down the line, but I just wanted more than just the collectibles. I wanted more of the side quests.
There's only so many.
Especially in the second and third acts, it felt like there were no side quests.
There's only so many times that they can tell you that bandits are bad and you shouldn't trust them.
Once you get up to that third area, the snowy area, it's just game on. There's nothing else to do.
Right.
Unless you want to find another hot spring or something like that. It's all right, I guess. I mean, sure, but this isn't thrilling content.
But in the end, I thought the game was pretty good. It was just, I found a lot more games more enjoyable through and through, but that's why 2020 is so insane. There's so many great games. I think last year was so insane because all of the great games were so niche and you had to like this kind of genre to really get into that game. This year, there's just been so much out there that some things are just going to click for other people, which shows with what Sean said, where we all have a different number one.
Yeah, and it's interesting because there are a lot of, you'll make a point, that point I made, when we talked about the Game Awards, is that there were a lot of people that did vote for Ghost of Tsushima as the Player's Choice Award to go against, another game, but there are a lot of people that really did enjoy Ghost of Tsushima. Daniel is not alone. There are so many people, every time I see a post for Game of the Year, there are a lot of people that just said, oh, it's Ghost of Tsushima for me, Ghost of Tsushima, so, none
of us are saying it's a bad game.
Right.
But I think most of us are saying it just goes on for too damn long.
Yeah. Well, that's fair. I'm just saying, for most big games nowadays, 40 hours is kind of expected.
Yeah, I don't agree with the length thing. I just didn't think it was particularly interesting as far as what they gave you to do.
Yeah.
And also the story. But to each their own.
Yeah.
Well, moving on from that, one great game to another. Marc's number one is Persona 5 Royal.
Yep.
They're Royal, sorry. Which, Jens and Marc enjoy a lot. Persona 5 is great. Nothing wrong with it. It adds a lot more content. Go on, Marc.
Well, I'll read my opening line to the thing I wrote. I don't care about dumbass politics or semantics. It's a new game. You can't buy the DLC separately, and it has trophies, new trophies, so new game. I know. Well, Jens didn't like how the new characters that much.
Actually, you can blame Jens for the fact that it's not being called a new game because he is the one that supported the whole.
Yeah.
You know.
It's just it's an add-on pack and some quality of life improvements.
Yeah, but they don't sell it separately.
In a new pack, yeah, but that's just the way it's packaged. If you look at what the content is,
that's because Atlas is smart. They don't want you to pay for a DLC pack. They want you to buy the thing.
All right, but you can't say I'm just gonna, I'll add 5 hours of content and re-release The Last of Us Part 2 next year, and it's going to go on our top 10 lists again.
Works for Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter.
That's yeah. I mean, that's those people, I guess. But
anyway,
the only problem I think with the game, I think they actually really integrate Maruki pretty well, but they don't integrate Kasumi at all correctly. Like, she has like 1 or 2 scenes in the beginning of the game, and then she's like gone for 80% of the game.
Yeah, she doesn't come back until like the final act.
You can like hang out with her, but she's not like in the game, or so it's really weird.
Well, you can't. She would completely change everything with the dynamics of that game.
Yeah, I think that's what would make it not a DLC pack, is if they had to integrate her into everything.
Yeah, well, she's not like part of your team. I mean, right. That makes sense, sure, but and for me, like the epilogue content, I thought was pretty weak overall.
See, we agree on this. It doesn't really add anything. Well, it just kind of gives you a slightly different resolution than the resolution that you already had, and
the content is like interesting, but it's just too brief. If it was like 10 hours long, it would have been great. But it's like I blasted through in like 2. If you're not counting like the actual dungeon, less than 2, because like it's like the game shows how everyone has changed, and then it's like 20 minutes of changing everyone back to normal, and that's about it.
Yep.
But I think the gameplay change.
Yeah.
No. Well, I don't think that's enough to knock it off my list. I think the gameplay changes are really great, like for battling, especially.
Yes, it's a lot more playable.
Yeah. I was able to get the full platinum trophy in one go. That was really nice. It didn't take 4.5 like Persona 5 did. God damn, that fucking task list bullshit. I like the regenerating ammo, like upgrading the baton pass, like the special attacks your characters could do. I mean, yeah.
I'm not saying the additions are not nice. I'm just saying I don't.
Yeah.
Well,
if I played Yakuza, I mean, this game was probably number 1, but Yakuza would probably be like number 2 or 3, honestly. Just because I was really wanting to play that game and I just didn't have enough time. But yeah, 25 all the way.
Wow. Oops. I forgot this. Thanks, Marc, for reminding me. So, backtracking a little bit. It's because seriously, I have talked about this game probably for like 6 shows straight.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of forgot that we probably still need to talk about it because there could be people that are listening to this show that haven't listened to anything. But Jens is number 3 and my number 2 is Yakuza Like a Dragon, which is a game I spent the most time in because it is extremely, has a lot of stuff for you to do. Has a ton of stuff to do, but compared to other games that overstuff with things, a lot of this is very optional, and secondly, a lot of that is also very good and very funny and very enjoyable as far as the side stories go, and a lot of the side content is just, like, you got a full freaking Mario Kart game in there. I mean, like, it's insane that that's in there, but it is, and, you have like all the normal Yakuza staples, the karaoke, the batting cages, the golf, there's oh god, what else is in there, Jens?
Mahjong, shogi,
the casinos.
Okay, yep, blackjack and whatnot.
All that stuff is in there. They even have hidden ones for you to do. It's like, so there's all of that stuff in there. The hilarious side stories that are in there that can take up your time if you want to do those. But the main story in this game is so good because they somehow went from having a 6-part story with Kazuma Kiryu. You don't know what you're going to do. This is the inverse of what happened with, I shouldn't make comparisons, but I'm making this comparison because it shows that if you are bold and understand, and this is from a series that is also pretty yearly, right? Like they don't like
if you count
really take
Judgment
time off.
and if you count Judgment and the Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise, then yes.
Well, I mean, even if you take out Fist of the North Star, they're pretty regular. Like
Yep.
they don't take a lot of time off in between the games. So like to be able to do that and then do what Microsoft and 343 couldn't figure out how to do with Master Chief, right? Because at some point you have to think that you're going to have to move on from him. Like Gears kind of did, I thought, decently well with taking, like, removing the old guard and bringing in these new guard, even though I know there's people that don't necessarily like everybody in the new guard. But like, they removed Kiryu, gave him a break, right? And now you have Ichiban, who is fantastic, who is a naive idiot, but he's so good and he's such a, like, warm-hearted character that he just makes you want to continue to explore his story. And then they gave him a group of friends that are also well worth learning about and exploring too. So, like, they just did this game so well. It could have gone really bad. You know, like, going from a beat 'em up to an RPG isn't, you could have, there are a lot of people that don't like it. They won't get into it. But if they give it a chance, they'll understand that they did this as well as they could with making it still feel like a Yakuza game, even though it's a turn-based game. I mean, you played a lot more than I have of the Yakuza series, Jens.
Yeah, I mean, I've played all of the ones that have come out, and I was pretty tired of it. Honestly, I was worried about this. I wasn't sure if I was ready to play another Yakuza game immediately after finishing Judgment for the podcast. And I was worried because as soon as this game starts, it starts with, like, the chase sequence, like in Judgment. I was like, oh god, maybe I shouldn't have bought this yet. But then that never happens again. Then it just turns into a completely different game. And I think they did the Dragon Quest thing perfectly. Like, as far as the job classes, the skills balancing. I love the optional dungeons in this game. I spent so much time just in the optional dungeons. The story is a great freaking Yakuza story that both fills in, like, stuff between previous games and then also just takes Yakuza in an interesting, not like a bold new direction or anything, but it definitely goes in a new direction where there's a balance of power change, which is very interesting. If you've played, Yakuza 6 and what happened in Yakuza 6, it's kind of like the fallout from that, and that's really interesting to see. So I like the story a lot. Love your whole party. Everybody in that party is awesome. All the relationship building quests of them and them telling you their life stories, and eventually you go and do something about it. That stuff's all so good.
Yeah, I still wish they would have not done the Dragon Quest thing of making you have to go to Hello Work every time you had to change a job.
Sure.
But aside from that...
See, I just didn't change... I would level a job up all the way before I would change.
Right, but your job maxes out at 30. I mean, if you're doing some grinding, you're going to max out one of the jobs.
Yeah, true.
I mean, like, and you have to grind. Like, it's not optional. I mean, that's also going to turn people off that aren't used to Dragon Quest RPGs or, well, even most old RPGs, period. That's the thing though, is like, I wish, and they also could have added they could have let you autosave in the dungeons.
That'd be nice. Well. The dungeons are a little brutal.
Yeah, like, cause there's times where that's the best time to level up another job. And it sucks when, like, you're going to the dungeon and you're stuck with this job of, like, oh crap, well, man, like, I could have, leveled up another job with it. Like, but
Fair enough.
I do, like, it's very small quiggles with this game. Like, there is just so much good about it that, unless you just cannot stand RPGs at all, if you like anything about Yakuza has ever tickled your fancy, you can definitely start here, and I think you'll enjoy it. Cause the fighting system is just close enough to a beat 'em up that I don't think it's gonna bother you so much, and it's like, once you figure out, like, what the skills do and all that stuff, I don't think it's, like, that much of a challenge to do, to, like, figure out things. There's gonna be some bosses that are gonna be difficult, but it's not that many. So, yeah, can't endorse this game enough. Wonderful, wonderful game. Yakuza Like Dragon. So, what do we have left? So we have all of ours, our ultimate favorites of the year. Jens, you have talked about this game. You had Marc buy this game, even though you probably knew he wasn't going to like it.
I hope he would like it. I'm a little disappointed at his reaction, but I'm hoping that once he gives it
when I started playing it, I was like, oh god, I could totally see Marc not enjoying it that much. But I've liked it. I haven't been able to. I literally got to the point now where you actually get to decide what you want to do. I got to the prologue. I played one mission of the strategy game, and I played some more of the story, and that's about as far as I am. That's why it's so low for me, but I've really enjoyed it of what I have played. I love what it's setting up. And I like those. Now that I've played a mission and seen that it gets a bit more, there is strategy to it and it gets a bit more difficult.
It ramps up, but the strategy element of the game is actually super good. The different weapon types are very satisfying, like whether you're using, the giant ray guns or the missile clusters or kind of trying to trigger the AMP correctly. Mm-hmm. And it's very satisfying to pull off a nice maneuver where you're like, okay, I've got to deploy, my air defense over here to block this stuff. I'm going to move my melee character in from the side. There's a whole row of guys coming at me from this direction. So that's where I'm going to use my ray gun. So all of the different, and it becomes a thing where it'll make you, in order to get the bonus objectives, which you want to do because you want to unlock all the story, you need to use specific Sentinels in those missions. And each of the generations of Sentinels have different abilities. Like some are landlocked, right? So they have to use the city grid to maneuver around. Whereas airborne ones can just go wherever they want. And then there's, of course, melee ones and ranged ones and defense ones that are, or that have EMPs and so on. So the different generations of Sentinels all have different strengths and weaknesses, and you really have to combine them. Once you get to a mission where it says, oh no, you have to use a 4th generation and a 10th generation together and you cannot use any of the others. And now figure out how to make that work. So. And
you can upgrade them.
The upgrades are so, all those abilities are also, sentry turrets, all those, cooldown abilities you can unlock. There's terminal abilities that will, the most important ones to get early, obviously, are the score multipliers and the money multipliers. But, a lot of those, I love the big EMP wave thing that the terminal can do. I upgrade that all the way. So, the upgrades are all super useful, and every Sentinel has a pretty big upgrade tree of stuff to choose from to customize. I think it's a really good strategy game on one side, and then on the other side, it's the best visual novel ever made. Just straight up.
That is
amazing story, praise. Amazing characters, reveals itself in a brilliant way, and will continue to surprise you. And it really is it doles out a mystery to you, and you don't even, there's no puzzles. It's an adventure game without puzzles, but you don't need puzzles because your brain is engaged 100% of the time trying to figure out, okay, wait, how does this connect? I was just...
Yeah, where are they at now? Where is he going?
It's now a year later, but I'm in 1985, whereas a year earlier I was in the future, and this character doesn't remember who he is and what is going on. And when it starts out, it seems random. It seems like every character has kind of their own thing that they're dealing with. Okay, this story is kind of like E.T., where she finds a cute little robot. And this story is a guy who's trapped in the time loop. And this story, everybody kind of seems to have their own sci-fi, high concept premise going on. But then you realize that no, actually all these things connect in a way that makes sense, and it all fits into a larger thing, and it's brilliant. So, I cannot recommend this highly enough. If you like visual novels and, anime type games and, light tactical strategy, that's very fast, it's real time. No mission takes longer than 3 minutes. It's extremely fast paced. You'll spend most of your time paused, but I enjoy how quick the missions are too. That's a definite plus. It's a very, and it contributes to that while you're doing, I felt very much while I was doing the strategy part of the game, it just became just one more, just one more, just one more, up until the point where the game won't let you anymore and then says, now do some story before you can continue your strategy. But it became addictive to me.
Fair enough. Yeah, I've increasingly gotten wanting to play that more and more. It's also a perfect game for me to play while I'm at work because it is a kind of like you create your own pace kind of thing. But yeah, Mark, I don't know if you're a lot farther than I am, but
No, you're further than I am.
oh, okay. You're still in the prologue?
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't like playing it. And everything Yen just said is suspect to me.
Suspect? Why?
Suspicious, I should,
You're
I'm sure.
sus, Jens.
Yeah. I mean, I will get to it sooner rather than later, but I just don't, the RTS stuff is, I guess, fine. It's very basic to me so far, but
Yeah, you've played the tutorial.
I don't like the vanillaware part of it, actually. Like the actual visual novel thing.
Well, my hope is that once you're forced to play it for review...
the stupid, thought cloud crap. It's like, what nonsense is this?
What? Fuck, that's, again, thought clouds and considering your objects or your choices as an adventure game staple.
Yeah, that's an old adventure game thing.
From adventure games from 20 years ago.
I know, but everything that you've complained about that you don't
it's
like
also a visual
game,
novel thing, so...
Yeah, it's just genre conventions that you don't like. Like, I don't feel like it's fair. This is like, if I were... I don't even know what a good comparison would be. What's a genre that you guys have put on your list that I don't care for?
Valhalla?
No, I mean, I'm playing that. That's...
SnowRunner?
Yeah, exactly. SnowRunner. That's a good one. When I say I hate being stuck in the mud, it's frustrating to me. It sucks. And you say that's what the game is about.
Yeah.
Fine.
And you stopped playing SnowRunner, didn't you? You didn't persevere. I didn't force you to play it.
Well,
see, this is why it's always good to make sure the person that is reviewing the game likes the game in general.
You didn't even see the rich time travel backstory in SnowRunner, did you?
The rich time travel backstory. Well,
each of those trucks has a story.
I would say this. I don't know. I guess you didn't anticipate that SnowRunner would be antithetical to my very being. But I did not expect that you'd be annoyed by the fact that there was a thought cloud, or that you had to click on the character moded once to get all the dialogue.
Yeah, I could keep talking
like that.
I don't like talking to him. It's just you have to keep the conversation ends and you have to start it back up, and it's like, why don't you just continue this fucking conversation until it ends, until the next scene happens?
God, well. I guess different people have different things that are big deals to me. These to me are total, I cannot wrap my head around these things being deal breakers.
Well, I want an exclamation point to actually start the next, the next scene or something like that.
Fair enough, but you kind of get an idea of what you should be doing.
Yeah, because typically there's only one or two people that ever talk to in a scene.
But also you can open up the branch that shows you how which branches of the story you've done and which you haven't done. So it becomes a little bit about, you got to poke a little bit about, okay, if I do this, then it starts this story branch, and I've already done that, so now I need to do something else. It has I don't know if you ever played 999 or Zero Escape or whatever.
999 is so good. All those are good.
Yeah, so this has a 9, if you like that, Sean, I mean, it has kind of a branching, you wanna fill in all these story branches kind of tree like that.
See, that's why I enjoy the game.
If, I think it might make it a little bit too obvious if it put exclamation marks over everything that you can still do. I don't know. There's a little bit of the gameplay is figure out what to do next at some points. Yep. Anyway, we're just not.
Fair enough.
I'll be curious to read your review when it's done. I'll be sad but curious.
Who knows? Maybe the story might actually catch me, but we'll see.
Randy, no 13 Sentinels love.
I'm glad that Jens went after Mark for this game and didn't make it a podcast game.
Oh God! Don't give an idea.
I kind of what Mark is saying. I was just sitting there going, "Oh God," because I find that same issue with not the same issue, but the same kind of issue with the way the story is being told in Cyberpunk. I'm having issues with, and it's just a genre specific thing, like Jens says. So with 13 Sentinels, I think I would lose my mind.
Well, fair enough.
Sorry, Jens.
No thoughts on playing Like a Dragon, Randy? Since you like
that one,
Judgment?
I'm more interested in too. I enjoyed Judgment more than I thought I would, so I like that world. I'm very happy that the change in battle and the old RPG stuff worked really well. So it might be one of those early 2021 kind of games for me if things don't start coming out. Because, I mean, we don't really know much yet for 2021 as far as exact dates, but it's a possibility for sure.
Yeah, there's still games that could be affected by COVID that we don't know about.
Yeah, that one is one that would not have been on my radar if I didn't do that game with Jens and get into that world.
Fair enough. See? It's always good to have that other person that can show you games you may not enjoy at first. And speaking of, let's get to it. Randy, it's my number 5 game because I've only gotten to a certain point, but I have really enjoyed what I have played so far. And this is from someone that didn't get very far in the first one. I just watched like 3 big recaps of the entire story and was like, frick it, I'm going to play this game because I know I'd like it if I actually gave it a shot. I like these kinds of like narrative games. Why not one where you actually have a lot more gameplay than, you know, say your Telltale or your other type thing. So, you know, I don't want to spoil anything because I'm sure there's still a lot of people that may have not played it or maybe got it for Christmas or something. But you know, you guys that have gotten a lot more into it than I have, that maybe chose not to include it on your list at all. And of course, Randy has Last of Us Part 2 as his number 1. Well, Randy, you first. Why did you really love the...
It's so hard to defend this game against people that are against it without spoiling. So if you really want to hear the deep dive, Jens and I, that was our very first ever Chapter Select episode. And we had a very good discussion about it there, completely going into it with spoilers and stuff. But as far as spoiler-free, it's just, I absolutely love the world of The Last of Us. I've always said that was my favorite game I never want to play again. And this is just more of that. But the combat is better. The gameplay is so much better. I thought the gameplay of the original was its biggest weakness. And I think the agility of Ellie really fixed some of that problems here in the sequel. I also love the fact that you can get in and out of combat so easily. It's just not, I've been seen, so now the rest of this battle is combat. It's, I can either just go straight combat or I can go hide and reset myself. If I want to play it stealthy, I like that aspect of it. I know a lot of people have issues with the story or the characters. I don't. I thought they nailed it. They took so many risks in this game and the way they wanted to tell their story. And I thought, Jens has told me off air, and I'm sure he will bring it up here in a minute himself, that he wanted to forget about this game as fast as he could because, you know, it kicks you in the nuts multiple times for sure. But this game and the game that Sean, you have as your number 1 are the 2 games I can't stop thinking about from this year, as far as just the way the characters act in certain points and how I wonder how I would be in those kind of situations and the realness of it and the way that, there are times where you're
I know what I would
it.
be. I would be dead because I would try to have a damn conversation about some of this stuff.
Right. But there are times, and what I love about this is there are times where I'm controlling a character and I'm upset at what they're doing. You're yelling at Ellie a lot because you're not in her shoes and you don't know what she's going through, and then she will react to something and you're like, damn it. But that's the story they're telling, and it's a fantastically well put together story. I will agree that the last act of the game doesn't nail it as much as it really wants to, but I don't hate it as much as some others do. I thought it was fine, but I felt like it was a little tacked on, and I don't know if it was really necessary for this game. But all in all, I just thought it was more of the Last of Us world, which I absolutely loved, but with far better gameplay, and it told there were some gut punches in the first one, which seemed more scene to scene. This whole game is a gut punch, and while I know a lot of people aren't going to be into that, and they play games to have fun, there's sometimes you just got to get real with yourself and put yourselves in these characters' shoes. And I thought they did a fantastic job. And the fact that they did not play it safe in a game that they knew it was going to be controversial, and then it got even worse when things got leaked and things got taken far out of context with the story, or were complete flat out wrong, and the Twitter hate that came from all of that before the game ever came out kind of put this game in a bit of a bad taste for a lot of people. But it's such a fantastic game.
I will just say this about the gut punch thing. I love a good gut punch, but the great thing about the gut punches in some of the other games that I've played this year is that there was a little bit of player agency behind them, where I felt that, well, maybe I deserved that gut punch because of a choice I made, or is there something I could have done to do this differently? Whereas, Last of Us is telling you the story that it wants to tell you.
Yeah.
And doesn't give you a choice in any of these moments. And then often will do kind of let's pull back and show you the other side of things and make you feel bad when you really didn't have a choice in it. And I can understand why a lot of people had a very strong reaction to that, because I had I didn't have the I hate this game, let's harass the developers or whatever reaction to it. But my reaction to it was that I felt emotionally manipulated. And I don't think it's bad. I think it's an incredibly well-made game. Obviously, from a gameplay standpoint, it's a better game than the first one.
Yeah.
I just couldn't put it on my list because there were too many things in it that irked me in the end, especially the ending, which I think goes way too far.
Yeah, and honestly, in the end, I mean, it's a playable movie, and that's what Naughty Dog is.
I think that's the thing is too, right, Randy, is you want to, if you're going to give me interactivity throughout this, that's way more than a Telltale game, I should be able to have interactivity in these other sections where you're wanting to force this story on me or tell me your story the way you want.
And I kind of disagree with that. There are plenty of games that works perfectly. Cyberpunk is one of them, where it's all about the character that you want to be and the way that works. With The Last of Us, it could just be a straight movie. You could just cut it out, and all the cutscenes are that's the movie and that's the story that they want to tell. There's never even a gameplay moment where you can go, well, I'm just going to go through and not kill anybody, and then that will change things around, and then the story messes things up. Right, you're going out killing people. You're going insane. You're doing the revenge tour for Ellie that she's showing in it. She just takes it a little farther than you probably feel comfortable, and I had issues feeling comfortable with. But I have no problem with it not giving me a decision. It's if it would have given you decisions at times, but then on the big moments it doesn't give you a decision, I would have the same thing. But you look at games that are all based on choice, and sometimes I always see them as false choices anyways. I'll take Life is Strange an example. That whole game is you're creating your characters and you're creating how these two characters are going to interact, and in the end, no matter what you choose, it comes down to A or B situation. It all comes back to the end anyways. So Last of Us doesn't even give you the hint of, oh, you're making these decisions. This is the story we're telling, and you're going to interact with that world, and to me that's fine for this kind of game.
Sure, I think it's not. I'm not saying that they needed to do more choice. I'm just saying in the confluence with the rest of the storytelling, it becomes it feels almost like a troll at times. So I can understand why people feel trolled overall.
There's one trolling moment that we can't talk about because of spoilers, but I felt like they turned that trolling moment around and created a fantastic character out of it. So, but I do understand it. Marc played some of it have you gotten back to it with the PS5?
No. I played about half at least, so I got to the second part with Abby at least. I really liked how the first game played. I thought, I didn't think it was a game, it was a bad game at all, the gameplay itself. So that's more why I was disappointed with The Last of Us 2, because they introduced dogs and occasional zombie on man hot action, and that was about it. There's no fundamental gameplay upgrade.
Well, if you liked how the first game played, why do you want to fundamentally change it?
Because I played that game. I want something new. or at least one thing to be different.
You know what more? I mean, I was happy gameplay-wise with more Last of Us.
And see, I played.
But they're also continuing a story here, so you don't really want to change it that much. Also,
well, I played the first Last of Us twice. Also, I played it on PS3, and then when I got my PS4, I played it then also because that's the only thing I had.
Yeah, that was a one and done for me as well. Honestly,
the story is fine. I'm not one of these guys who's guys who are like, oh, it's a game full of women. I have to hate it or something like that. Like the characters are okay.
No, that has nothing to do with it.
No, that has something. I don't mean you guys specifically. I mean like some of the internet hate about the game itself, like you know Abby or
I get what he's talking about.
It's just the gameplay. Like I just wasn't enthralled by it that much. Like they have a few new enemies, but like if you took a shot of like the UI or like just even like the the weapon system, like selection thing, and compared to the first game, it's like this is the same thing. Like
no. I totally get where Marc's coming from. The only thing I'll disagree with is the way Ellie plays instead of Joel is just because she's younger, she's a bit more agile. But the other thing is, this game comes a couple years, I want to say it was 2 years after the first one, so I'm cool with them not introducing a bunch of new kind of zombies, because, I mean, maybe if they went to a completely different continent or something, there would be a different kind of infections. But I do understand that it is a bit samey as far as the enemies and stuff.
But it's literally a part 2. I mean, what are we, like...
Right.
Don't you need to finish this, and then if you want to move on, you can introduce new stuff? I mean, they're continuing this thing, like Randy says, 2 years after. I mean, like, how much really is going to happen in 2 years?
To this game's credit, I mean, I'm a little neutral on how they handle the character switching. Like, it seems a little abrupt, I would say, but it's much better than what they did in the first game, which is like, they just had those like really weird, abrupt, hard changes from seeing, like, oh, now it's fall, and like, now it's winter. It's like, what? Like,
and the biggest issue that I know a lot of people have with this game is a certain scene that happens early on in the game. I actually love how they did that. Because I know when we were doing our previews, or at least the people that I was talking to before this game came out, we all predicted that to happen. We just didn't predict it to happen in the first 2 hours of the game. So even though I felt like it was going to come at some point, they still were able to do a nice surprise with it. I know a lot of people talking about, it was unjustified, or they did this person wrong, or I can't believe they did this to that person. It's just like real life. We started this podcast saying R.I.P. to Brody Lee. Not every death is going to go the way you want it to go, and I have no problem with it, because you know what? That dude was kind of a bad guy anyways.
The one real positive I'll say in the game, and I know that Uncharted Lost Legacy game did it too, but I really like that Seattle part. I don't know if they ever do anything like that. Yeah, the open world, part? Or like, here's a big ass open map. You have your own map of this area. You can go do the story if you want to, or it can be a bunch of side crap.
I was honestly a little disappointed they didn't do that more than that one time. I agree with you. When you get to the open area with that map and the little hidden scenes that you could completely bypass if you're just going from checkpoint to checkpoint in that area, I agree with you. I wish they would have done that more.
This is one point where, like, do you think the developers are trolling us a little bit by promising this, like, oh, hey, here's your bigger, better, new Last of Us, and then they very abruptly take it away from you in a shocking moment, and then after that, it's linear.
I don't think so, because, like Marc said, that's exactly how it was with Lost Legacy. It was one chapter that was like that. And with The Last of Us, there's one chapter that's like that. They just happened to put it at the beginning of Seattle, but that storyline makes sense because, Ellie and,
Abby?
Abby is the other person.
Her girlfriend, yeah.
The girlfriend.
Dina,
thank you, yes.
Have just traveled many, many miles to get to Seattle. They've had plenty of time to sit there and talk. So, wow, it's still a revenge tour. And I think a lot of people felt like, well, why are we having these conversations and these sit down moments and playing the guitar, which is so fantastic in this game, how they construct the whole aspect of the story around a song from Pearl Jam, and the connection between Joel and Elliot with that song is just fantastic throughout the whole game. But I know a lot of people are like, why are they sitting there talking? They're out to kill Abby and stuff. It's like, I mean, while you're on revenge, you're still going to have normal conversations and sit down moments. And I'm sure if we ever got a Last of Us 2.5 where we go with Abby and her group from Seattle to go try to find Joel, you're going to have a lot of those kind of moments too. You do at the beginning of The Last of Us Part 2 with Abby.
Yeah, that's true. You do. So, yeah, interesting. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, I don't think it's a bad game at all, but it's just like the gameplay just did not grab me for some reason. And I liked the first one. That's like the weirdest thing is.
Yeah, we got it.
It's functionally the same game. I mean, like they add like one or two things, but 95% is the same game. But for this one, it just didn't hook me correctly.
That's okay.
That's fine. Well, the last game, you probably know what we're talking about if you've heard us on this podcast at all this year. How much we, as a collective, have all liked this game. When we did our best of 2020 so far, this was our consensus.
Deadly Premonition
2? Not Deadly Premonition 2.
I just realized, where did that go?
Jens, where did that go, Jens?
For a while.
Yep, I dropped it off the top 10 list. I think primarily for performance reasons.
Yeah, like when I read, like the story is still batshit crazy, but like skating around sucks.
Yes, the story is great. I really like the game. I would recommend it to fans of the first game. Absolutely play it. It would have probably been like number 12 or 13 on my list. But yeah, people forget that when Deadly Premonition came out on the 360, it actually ran pretty well. Like that original release of Deadly Premonition was pretty good. It's with the director's cut, that really, you were like, oh god, 15 frames a second, 20 frames a second at the most, on any of the combat stuff. And that weirdly became kind of what people knew from Deadly Premonition, and this is more in. I just don't see how I don't see how it's acceptable by comparison. Like it runs so much worse than the first game, at least the original release of the first game. The story's great. It's not as much Twin Peaks. It's obviously Swery has watched a lot of True Detective, and also The Killing. He's doing kind of a lot of references to things. So it's got a slightly different tone, but it does a lot of the same bad shit stuff that you know and love from Deadly Premonition. But I don't know, man, not a top 10 game.
Fair enough.
Just like other games that were supposed to be like top 10 were like Spelunky 2 or sort of like that kind of came in one.
Yeah, what happened?
Spelunky
I thought that
2, Spelunky 2 just
Hades came out the next week and took it full of water.
That's the problem.
Exactly.
Hades came out the next week and I completely just dropped it.
If we're talking about games, I'm surprised that we're not on people's lists. I've played a little bit of it and I'm enjoying it, but Mark, have you just not played enough of Puyo Puyo 2 yet? Or
no, I don't have it. I really want it.
Okay.
That would be my game of the year. The only thing that is planned Persona 5 Royal, but I don't have it.
I will say I bought it the other day. I bought that and Super Meat Boy at the same time, and I'm enjoying it so far.
Yeah. Well, it's Tetris. What more do you want?
Right.
Hard to mess that up. So yes, I'm talking about Final Fantasy VII Remake. It is my number 1 game. It is Mark and Randy's number 2 game. It is not even on Daniel's list, and Jens has it as number 4. This was probably one of, if not the game of like the spring before Last of Us 2 came out. And, aside from the side stuff, which, you could take or leave for some people, the rest of what they did with this game is absolutely phenomenal. I think taking characters that you absolutely know and love and doing them justice in a way that I think many people never thought possible is a feat. Like, that's not easy to do. Like, they could have and I know a lot of people wanted that. They could have just done shot for shot. This is Final Fantasy VII Midgar, the same thing, and done that as a game, released it as like maybe $20 cheaper, and you would have got that. And I think you would have been fine with that. But what makes this a remake and what makes this special to me is all of the stuff that was added. All the stuff that was extended that makes you think of, what would this world be if you played it in 2020 right now? And not in 1997 when you had a PS1 to play it on. And, I mean, for being a PS4 game, it looks absolutely beautiful. And, like, it's amazing what shows that, and there's real little excuse what, sometimes when, CD Projekt Red talks, there's little excuse when you have two games we're talking about and just talked about that look great on a PS4.
Yeah, but, I mean, at least Final Fantasy VII, it's a very much different experience.
I know, I'm just saying, like, it plays well, right? And, like, the battle system is, I think I saw someone who will be like, can we just make Final Fantasies after this also have this battle system too? Right? We were all worried about would they make it like 15 and kill it and make me not want to play a Final Fantasy again? They somehow married both and made it work. Like, I don't want to be the only one to talk here. So, like, Randy, what did you love so much about
everything? Like you said, I was one of those when they first announced it that wanted a shot-for-shot thing. Just give me upgraded graphics, maybe an upgraded battle system, maybe a couple new summons or something. So I was a little worried when they were first talking about the way they were going to do the battle system. I absolutely fell in love with it. I fell in love with the changes. I love the fact that they basically went, listen, we know so many people love the original Final Fantasy VII, and it's still out there. We've put it on absolutely everything. So if you want to play the original Final Fantasy VII, you go right ahead. This is the new Final Fantasy VII, and they put the little twist in it with the ghosts that are trying to keep the fate and everything in line, and the little changes that happen throughout the story. And I love that they added that in there just to go, because if they would have just done this as a shot-for-shot remake, if they would have messed up one thing, somebody on the internet
what everybody's talking about. Yeah.
So mad. It's like, oh, in Cloud, when he goes into this one place, his dress is purple and it's supposed to be this. It's like people would lose their minds. So just the fact that they listen, there's these arbiters of fate that are trying to save things, but things are changing because this is not the same Final Fantasy VII. This is a different universe and a different timeline. And we're telling it a little different. And the ending, I know a lot of people weren't into. I absolutely loved. It has me really excited to see what they do with it. It just changes the way the word remake is defined. I think we're not remaking this game. We're remaking this whole timeline, and everything is changing. And this was the game that I went into going, how are they going to screw it up? And at no point, other than maybe a couple of the side missions and a couple of the chapters having a little bit too much padding, other than that, I don't think they messed up at all.
Yes.
I have very little to add, but
Like the music.
I like the music a lot.
You keep buying soundtracks.
I keep buying. I've now purchased 13 CDs of Final Fantasy.
Jens is a goddamn hero. That song, I know we talked about it when we did the review. The song that I was looking for in the graveyard finally came out on one of those new CDs, and he sent it to me, and it's on there, and I've listened to it over and over.
Oh,
so I know we always make fun of Jens.
Good.
We always make fun of Jens about being way into the music. I have zero issue with him being into the music with this game, because I am too.
Yeah, but
this music is like on another level. So it's like, listen to it to do anything, you will be pumped and feel all kinds of emotions while you listen.
It was amazing to me when they put out 5 additional hours of it this week that basically there was so much new stuff that we hadn't heard on the first 8 CDs. But
it's like, it's cool that like they didn't just put in Uematsu's stuff and just make it louder or whatever. They redid a lot of it, and it sounds so much cooler. And like, they added their own different, there's like, 20 different versions of the battle theme or whatever, and they're all freaking awesome. I mean, like, that's special too. Like, that takes time and effort to do, and it's like, there is so much love that went into we talked about this with Astro's Playroom. Like, there's so much that went into this, that they did this so well. Yeah, there's things you can nitpick. The ending, going Kingdom Hearts, the the side stuff with going to find cats and going to do ancillary stuff that doesn't really matter. They try to tie it in to make it matter, but whether it does or not is relevant. You can maybe not like the whole where they split up the party a little bit too much at the end or whatnot.
That's one thing I didn't like.
Yeah, like there is stuff to nitpick if you want to nitpick. But I feel like the overall package, and it still wasn't this, like, you can talk about they padded stuff out. Like, it still wasn't this super long game. It's not like they made it 60 hours or 80 hours. It was a decent.
Yeah.
I
And
got it to like 30.
Yeah, like, it's 30. It's like, that's not a big deal. Like,
I think people were upset because they felt it was too short.
Yeah.
well, but like, what'd you want? More side missions that you're gonna hate?
Right.
Like,
And I love one of the arguments I've seen about this game is, it's like Final Fantasy 13. It's too linear. Midgar was linear.
yeah, that's Midgar.
That, yeah.
Midgar was a demo area, basically.
Mhm.
I mean,
It's like,
this game goes way more, and like you can actually get the hell around the city if you really want to.
Yeah, there's just not that much reason to unless you're really trying to clean up all the collectibles and stuff.
Yeah, or you miss something. Yeah, way back in the slums or something like that. Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, I think I agree. Every single little aspect, everything that I remembered about the original Final Fantasy VII, they took it and they blew it up into something that is, way more notable and way more important and is going to stick with me for a long time. Like, I still think, like, that's a game that I'm still thinking about. The way that Randy's still thinking about The Last of Us, I'm still thinking about Final Fantasy VII
And I'm
all the time.
Yeah, this one I'm still thinking about. The voice acting in this is better than I was ever expecting. Aerith is perfect. I think they got the perfect girl for her. Barrett has some great scenes. I made a joke on the chapter selected on Cyberpunk. There's a scene where Johnny goes off on this rant about how they're destroying the planet and stuff. And I told Jens on the podcast, I'm like, Barrett did it so much better in this game. It's so good. This game's it's great.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much, like, all those things you think about when I think about Final Fantasy VII, at least that area, and you go, man, I wonder what that would look like if what?
Yeah. I was going to say, how dare you put down the original Aerith voice for Kamina Savari.
Wow.
From
Was that
Advent
her,
Children?
really?
Yeah,
That was her, yeah.
Oh, Advent Children. Okay, right.
Well, she also did Kingdom Hearts. I mean,
Yeah, she, and Rachel Lee Cook was Tifa, I think.
yeah.
I just never, I didn't care about Cloud that much as a character, and this game gave Cloud a depth that I don't remember ever having.
He never really had it.
Yeah, he had a personality in this game, which helped.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's a dork, and he has a personality. You care about him.
He's a voluntary incel, the way he turns down everybody's advances. There's a lot of great...
Jesse is great in this game.
Jesse's wonderful. Wedge is really funny. I really like the bit when they go to meet Jesse's mom, like when they go to get pizza and you've got to sneak around the back and all that stuff. Like, there's so much nice character building.
I mean, there's just too much good in this game, and I feel like it's gonna be crazy to see what they can do with Part 2. What are they gonna add? Where's it gonna stop? Where's, I'm a little bit scared of Nomura talking about, well, we could make this a little bit, like, in shorter chunks. I'm like, oh, I don't know about that, but.
That's the joke I kept making. This is gonna be 20 parts long.
But, yeah, I mean, how are they gonna handle that open world thing? Like, that's gonna be the big question when they ever get to it, but. As far as this game goes, and can they even add a next-gen patch to this? Like, how's this gonna look even freaking better than it already does?
Ray tracing, son.
Yeah, I don't even care about if they add ray tracing. I'd like it if it just loaded a little faster. It doesn't, the load times were never terrible, but it would be nice to see that kind of get a bump.
Yeah. But, yeah, that's our top 10 games of 2020. Now again, this is not the entire site. Like, this is not a combination of what we have to do on Wednesday, which is deciding the top 25 games and ranking them and, doing all that jazz. But the reason why I did this is not only because there's people that don't like to read things. It's also so that maybe this helps the top 25 go a little bit smoother. Number one. Number two is you kind of get where we're coming from. Like what we like, what we don't, what we thought were some of the better games that, maybe don't even get sniffed when we're talking about the entire 25 at large. So, it's, that one's gonna be a fun one to do. It's gonna suck, I think, making some of these sacrifices, but we'll get to it when we get to Wednesday night, Thursday morning. Until then, hope everybody had a good Christmas. Take advantage of those holiday sales while they're still there. Whenever that stimulus gets to you, maybe you use it on a PS5 or Series X that you haven't bought yet. It sure as hell ain't gonna pay that many bills, so why not? And what else? Yep. Hit subscribe if you like what you heard. If you stayed around for the whole almost 3 hours again, God bless you. And, well, yeah, we'll see you in a little bit, and not in a couple of days, to figure out our top 25 of 2020. Man, guys, it's almost here. We're almost at 2021. Can you smell it in the air? It's happening. Nope. All these great games that are gonna hopefully show up in 2021. So, until...
What's the first big one? What's the first
Hitman
game?
3.
Oh, is that it?
Hitman 3, yeah, is technically the first. That's January 20th. That's the... But I mean, sadly, none of us are big Hitman fans here.
Yeah.
You put Daniel on it.
Well, I'm not going to put him on if he doesn't like it either.
I've played them, but yeah, they just don't appeal to me at all. Like, I at least have a few of them, but... Yeah, I mean, I have some too, thanks to they some reason always got put on PS Plus or whatever, but I never really, aside from that, I think the Neo collection comes out in
February. I'll get my upgrade at least, my Neo upgrade.
The East 9 comes out at the beginning of February. Outriders also comes out.
There 2nd. It is. Okay.
Outriders, yes. The next Square Western game. A Little Nightmares 2 comes out in the second week of February that Randy and I are excited about. And Super Mario 3D World Plus also comes out that week, and then Persona 5 Strikers. So there's things coming out pretty quick there.
Yep.
So, and Bravely Default at the end of around the same time as Strikers.
That's going to be a big one.
You're going to have a lot to do, Jens. The Strikers and Bravely Default 2 within like 3 days of each other.
Well, that's difficult to prioritize. I guess I'll try and blast 2 Strikers quickly because Bravely Default's going to be a time suck.
Yeah, we'll see. But alright. Until Wednesday night, everybody. See you later.
Later.